on this start, which gets underway now then, and it's a good start from the second row from Joel Oswick, who draws up alongside. Not such a good start for Chris Byallen, that's dropped behind those second row cars. So it's Dallin Henderson that leads. Second is Parkin in the Audi. There's Blenko, who's side by side with Simon Major, the two third row starters. Down into the hairpin then they go for the first time of Arsenal. It's the Mazda ahead of the Audi, ahead of the BMW. Then the front wheel drive Sayat's come up next. Major up alongside Byalon. These two had a battle yesterday in the road sports racing. You've got Alan Blenko having a look to the inside, but he can't quite make that. Great to have him back racing again this year. Darren Ball is there in 7th. A very good start from Matthew Stockford, the Class A Championship leader, due to a consistent first 2 rounds in the Audi. They're in 8th. And then the rest of the field flow their way down towards the hairpin for the first time. It looks like William Puttergill's taken the lead in Class B there in 83 in the Civic. Sandro Ballesteros has followed him through ahead of the poleman Chris Webster. So the cars then make their way down towards the left-hander at Hamilton after that good start, and a nice clean start as well for the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship here at Snetterton. And they're working their way around this 3-mile circuit, trying to get into a rhythm early on in this distance. There's one of the front runners in Class C. That is Dave Connell that starts the Mazda MX-5 Mark III. But it's an MX-5 of a rather different kind out front, with Alan Henderson leading the way. I think for the first time he's seen this car lead a race in Club Enduro. They got pole at Silverstone last year, but in the wet they fell away pretty much immediately. But they're leading, and actually, if anything, Alan Henderson pulling away from last year's champion Scott Parkin.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris Byallen, you said there, not a great start, down to 4th place, but we still have a good stretch to make up that lost ground for Chris Byallen as they now make their way through in towards Murray's, then out of the final corner and back onto the centre straight. A really good launch there from Joel Oswick, though. Really got himself alongside, almost trying to make it 3 wide at some point on the lap there, down towards the first corner at Ritchie's, and got himself up into 3rd place. And Scott Parkin taking 2nd place away as well. As looking back there, that looks like the 22. That's Luke Browse, who's looking for a move up the inside of Ritchie's, and he's got that move done. And
the Class B leaders are right together. Chris Webster's got back ahead of Ballesteros. There's Ballesteros, who's dropped to 3rd, but just ahead of them, William Puttergill is coming very much under pressure from Chris Webster, who didn't make the best of starts, but that 2.5 litre Duratec powered Ginetta G40 is very much getting on with things now and going after the class leader. And with their main championship rival within Class B, Jonathan Packer, out seemingly early on, this is a good opportunity for Chris Webster and Matthew Tidmarsh there in the little Ginetta in 2nd in class to try and make progress. Class C, Dave Connell got to the front of that. He got ahead of Sam Dennis then at the start, and that should be a race-long battle to keep an eye on as well. There's Greg Saunders, who had that moment on the green flag lap. He's made good progress since.
He has indeed. I believe that was Sandro Ballesteros who's just got up the inside of, which it is. And so he moves himself up the order, up a position. And as you say, recovering from that little bit of an off on the formation lap, the 2nd formation lap, we should say, before we got ourselves going. But Ballesteros then will be trying to just make sure he keeps that 168 behind. As I apologise, it's Salmon Glenn right behind and making their way through in towards Williams now and back onto the power. They will go down the Bentley straight. Is there a way that Simon Glenn can close onto the back of the Audi? Meanwhile then we've got Chris Webster then looking for an outside move then as we head away down towards Brundle. He's got that move done on the Civic, then moves himself up a position there, and I think that was for 13th overall, but it was for the Class B lead.
And the Class C leaders are side by side as well, so the classes is really competitive today. Sam Dennis was having a look around the outside of Dave Connell, but Connell hangs on then in the Mazda MX-5, the 2 litre Super Cup engined MX-5, then ahead of Sam Dennis in the Motion Motorsport Honda Civic. But the Class B leaders are still together. They were a little bit in Class A traffic too with Rob Fenix at BMW, so they're side by side now as William Buttergill tries to come back alongside. They've got Greg Saunders who slits them through the middle on the way up towards Ritchie's corner, obviously with that more power being a Class A car. But can Buttergill get back ahead of Chris Webster here into Ritchie's corner? He cannot, so the Ginetta stays ahead, so it's still Chris Webster who leads Class B after making that move that Kieran described down the Bentley straight on lap 2 then, so it's the Ginetta back ahead.
Always a bit sketchy when you go 3 wide down the centre straight there, but they all managed to negotiate their way through very, very well indeed. David Connell in the number 97 running very deep in towards Wilson there. That allows the 195. That's Sam Dennis in the Civic there to try and get alongside, and just behind them trying to make their way through. I think it's that's a VW there. I couldn't work out who that was, though.
I think that's Edward Cook's Sirocco.
Yeah, you're right.
He's a Class B car. The other two are battling for the Class C lead. So we saw the Class B leaders side by side. The Class C leaders are side by side now as the Motion Motorsport Civic goes up the inside, and Sam Dennis reclaims the lead then from Dave Connell. And now they've got the Sirocco of Edward Cook getting involved in that as well as they go up towards Ritchie's, and he splits the Class C cars awkwardly for Dave Connell. I'm sure that isn't really what Dave was looking for, the West Midlands driver, the former MSVT Track Day Championship class champion, now moving up into Club Enduro, and just lost touch then with Sam Dennis, the championship leader, the double winner this season in Class C with Ashmore. So that battle will continue on down the Bentley Straight. So good to see the classes having these early battles. Already sort of a third of a lap ahead of them, the race leader overall, Alan Henderson, has completed another lap, and he leads by a couple of seconds over Scott Parkin. Sam Dennis has also now fallen behind Ed Cook, and now he flashes his lights at the Class B car because he doesn't want to get held up in the knowledge of he's got his class rival not far behind. He's only just passed Dave Connell. So it's a good battle between the sort of the high tin top, the Honda Civic, and the much lower slung Mazda MX-5 behind.
Yeah, it's flash of the lights can mean many things in many contexts, but I think in that case it was please don't hold me up. As well, that was a little look down the inside from Dave Connell there in the 97, trying to find his way past, but no move through in towards Murray's there as they make their way now on towards the centre straight, and in doing that he might have lost a little bit of momentum trying to make a move down the inside, and yeah, it's got a, well, that's about 6 or 7 car lengths as they make their way in towards Ritchie's there, so not ideal for Dave Connell, but we know he's got the pace about him to try and close up again. There's
the race leader, that's Alan Henderson in the AK Engineering Mazda MX-5 that he will share with Daniel Irving. Into Williams he goes. He's 2 seconds ahead of the Brands Hatch winner, Scott Parkin. So up over the curbs goes Henderson. He's done a 2:03.6 as his best lap of the race. In third position is Joel Oswick in the BMW M3 that won at Croft. Fourth is Chris Byallen's Cupra. Fifth is Simon Major in another Cupra. It's sort of all the Cupras are next, aren't they? With Darren Ball and Luke Browse and Alan Blenko and Alok Inyugar all together. So 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th are the TCR spec cars, but they're all being headed by these 3 sort of home-built and developed racers, the Mazda MX-5, the Audi TT and the BMW M3. But Joel Oswick starting to come under pressure now. Joel, a former champion when he ran in Class C, coming under pressure from Chris Byallen and from Simon Major as they turn their way up through Coram Curve and into the final corner and about to complete 4 laps.
Indeed they are, and Alan Henderson looking to try and extend his lead, but Scott Parkin looks like he was closer on that last lap, and he was. He closed in by about 0.6 of a second on that last lap, as just watching on a battle for third place there. That was Oswick and Byallen. So Chris Byallen closing onto the back of Joel Oswick as we make our way through in towards Wilson now. We'll keep an eye on it and see if there's any change of position.
Meanwhile, a battle for 6th place between Darren Ball in the Williams Motor Company liveried Cupra, just ahead of the similar car of Paul and Luke Browse. It's Luke who's started the race today, the Stowmarket glass car. Alan Blenko's been dropping back at the start of this race. I wonder if it was Claire Norman who did the time in qualifying. So he's dropped behind behind Alok Inyugar in the Ben Williams car, and Matthew Stockford as well. Matthew Stockford, the multiple Paralympian medalist from the 1990s. I think it was a skiing event that he did back then, but he's moved to motor racing last year, and is the Class A Championship leader coming here to Snetterton after a couple of 4th place finishes. They've been consistent, Timmy and Alan James in their Audi RS3. Here's the Class C leaders, they're still together. Sam Dennis is not able to pull away from Dave Connell here. At Croft, that Motion Motorsport Civic was pretty dominant, but although they did win at Brands Hatch, not as convincingly. And then today, they cannot pull away from the Mazda at all. We've got a car off here at Palmer. That's a BMW M2. So that might well be Rob Fennick, who is trying to get back up to speed with the Class C battle, passing him down towards Agostini.
Yeah, and trying to, as you say, get back onto the pace. But if there's a problem, that we expect that BMW to make its way back into the pits then. David Connell then still onto the back, trying to find his way past, and through in towards Hamilton we go. And that 97 is not letting Sam Dennis go anywhere at this moment in time, is he? It's great to see this great battle making its way through in towards Oggies.
Yeah, with that BMW back up to speed now, that you'd think would pass it on the run up towards the S's into Brundle and Nelson in a moment's time. So they will now accelerate towards the left-hander at Brundle, and yeah, there goes the BMW. That's the Class A power for you. Or is it a B car? It might be the other car. It might be the Simon Glenn Class B car, yeah, 168. That's the car I think that had the moment at Palmer. So apologies, not Rob Fennick. He's still there in 11th position. And here comes Dave Connell. Has a look to the inside of Sam Dennis. He can't get the better of him there. Dave, who shares with Alex Wilkinson-Hughes this season, the Staffordshire man, and then Sam Dennis is sharing with Ashmore, the championship leaders, as I say. And Mazda perhaps a bit lighter, a bit more nimble through the corners. The Scuderia Dave MX-5 then accelerates out of Murray's to complete 5 laps, and this battle, you have to wonder, Kieran, if it's going to go throughout the whole 2-hour duration at this rate.
Scuderia Dave, is that right?
Yes.
I love it already.
But when Dave started, his teammate Dave Connell was the others. He had 2 days.
Ah, that makes more sense now. I just thought he named it after his own self. But there we go. If there were 2 Daves, that makes even more sense. But yeah, really great battle we have there on our hands. And it's all happening within the first 12 minutes of this race. These drivers do realise it's a 2-hour endurance, don't they? They're treating it like it's a 2-hour sprint.
And lap traffic begins now for the Class A cars, and that'll be a constant now for the remainder of the duration. Joel Oswick now has pulled clear of Chris Byallen, and he's going after Scott Parkin. Scott, last year's champion, the 34-year-old from South Yorkshire, the owner of Darkside Developments, who we thank for being an associate sponsor of the Club Enduro Championship. So there's number 1. As Kieran said, he raced a Golf last year, Scott Parkin. He's moved into this TDI Audi TT, and he's just 1.2 seconds away from Alan Henderson. So the gap has been coming down, but the quickest of all of them over the last couple of laps has been Joel Oswick, who's there in 3rd position. They've got that E30, I think the oldest car on the grid, to lap. That was started by Semel Osman. And then not that far behind, you've got Chris Byallen and Simon Major. So really it's 5 for the lead at this point.
Yeah, brilliant stuff in these early stages. Long may it continue, as we'll see our leaders then make their way through in towards Palmer, and on the exit then. And we should, in the next couple of laps, going by the last lap times, 2:05.3 from Henderson, 2:04.3 from Parkin, and then 2:04 flat from Oswick. So they're all sort of gathering up together, and this little bit of lappery here is going to be just that. And Henderson, well, he can't really pass through at the moment because he's got 2 battling lapperies there. They're allowed to battle each other, but that's just drawn them closer in. And in fact, Joel Oswick has picked up and taken full advantage as he's got up the inside of Scott Parkin as they make their way through in towards Oggies then. And this lappery, Scott Parkin has to take to the grass then, as Joel Oswick has to go around the outside of a little bit of lappery there. So Scott Parkin not only loses out to 3rd place, but gets a little bit of grass on the Audi as well. But down the long back straight then of the Bentley straight. I was trying to see if Scott Parkin was flashing his lights there.
I think he may have been, or the side lights at least, and this has brought Chris Byallen into this as well, so this has got pretty competitive. And as you said, they caught the traffic just as they were side by side at the most awkward corner probably to catch anybody, especially on the infield. So that got all quite dicey, but it's allowed Joel Oswick to take 2nd in the BMW from the Audi of Scott Parkin. But this is what endurance racing is all about, multi-class racing and working your way through the traffic quickly, effectively, but safely as well. So there's the Darkside Motorsport the Darkside Developments Audi TT of Scott Parkin, who's dropped to third, but it's still the AK Automotive Mazda MX-5 that leads. Alan Henderson completes 7 laps as the race leader, but the top 4 are separated by, top 5 rather, are separated by 3 seconds. This is super competitive. Now, all the other races today have been 15 minutes. This would be the last lap in their race, but we've got 1 hour and 45 minutes to go, and Scott Parkin is having a look to the inside of Joel Oswick, who brakes a bit late, slides a bit wide to the front-wheel drive Audi that produces 340 brake horsepower, tries to draw alongside the E46 M3, can't quite do it, so Joel Oswick hangs on to second. This is great racing though.
Great racing indeed. Joel Oswick just taking full advantage of that little bit of lappery. The lappery giveth and the lappery taketh away is normally the phrase we go by. Joel Oswick then taking to the inside because there's a bit of lappery to deal with on the outside as we make our way through in towards the left hand of Agostini. Back on the power we go. I think that's the 169 there, so that's Matthew Simonite in that Mazda. They're just all getting their way through, but as you say, top 5 separated by just over 3 seconds when they were at the line last time around. Really great to see in these opening stages of this race.
So lap number 8 of the race, Parkin back on terms with Oswick at the point of the lap where Parkin had to go grass tracking, and he's now trying to move up alongside Joel Oswick. Down the Bentley straight they go, and has the Audi got enough power to draw alongside? Not really. These two German manufacturers that have been so successful, not just with road cars but in motorsport as well, and they turn their way up towards the end of lap number 8 of the race with the former Class C champion, Joel Oswick, the former Class B champion, Scott Parkin, absolutely nose to tail as they go through Coram. Now in Class A cars, the Sirocco looks pretty slow ahead of them, so they have to swoop around Edward Cook. I wonder if that car's bound for the pit lane. Hopefully it can make it there. So the leaders turn their way out of Murray's. They will complete 8 laps with Alan Henderson still leading the way. He's not really battled with the others, but he's not that far ahead. And yeah, the Sirocco's got going, it's into the pit. So for Ed Cook, that's not good news.
Not good news indeed. And yeah, just getting out of the way of the bit of traffic coming through. But of course, when it comes to endurance races like this, it's on the faster car. It's their responsibility to get past the lappery safely. So it's not a case of the lappery has to jump out of the way. As meanwhile then, as I'm going to interrupt myself, Scott Parkin tries to go round the outside here as we head our way through in towards Palmer. Got a really good exit coming out of Wilson, and he's now got himself ahead into second place ahead of Joel Oswick. And then on the short run down towards Agostini, perhaps Joel Oswick, is he close enough? He certainly thinks of a move down the inside, but decides to go and fill the mirrors of Scott Parkin. Scott Parkin vastly experienced when it comes to battling. He's not going to be fazed by something like that.
So Parkin back into second position, then the former Turismo X champion and then Club Enduro last year, and enjoying this new sequential gearboxed Audi TT. New development for the team this year, the gearbox on the car, and he's up then into second position once more, back ahead of Joel Oswick, and then still ahead of the 2 Cupras of Chris Byallen and Simon Major as well. So they accelerate up towards Brundle, where the AK Automotive Mazda is. Alan Henderson, the race leader, he was 1.8 seconds ahead at the start of the lap. There's a Major who was in contention in road sports yesterday. It was Chris Byallen who took that race yesterday. He's joined by Simon Mason today in Club Enduro. So up towards Coram they go. These 5 are a long way ahead of everyone else. They've got lots of pace. But if it's this competitive, this is really going to affect both Joel Oswick and Scott Parkin with their longer pit stops that will have to come up in the middle part of the race. So that will be a strategy that they will be thinking how to best to deal with that, as they've got more traffic, as is always the case in this championship. More traffic to deal with, including the 333 car, the Tom Stedman and Mike Hooper Mazda MX-5. Chris and Scott Parkin just has to slide up the inside of him out of Richie's corner and down in towards the hairpin once more. And already out of the hairpin, the race leader, Alan Henderson.
Yeah, Alan Henderson relishing the fact that Scott Parkin and Joel Oswick are battling behind him. He's managed to get that gap opened up to 2.1 seconds. Scott Parkin, now that he's made the move, was 0.3 quicker than Parkin on that last lap, and a little bit of lap read to deal with as well for Henderson as he manages to get up the inside. That allows an open invitation for the Civic racing behind them to get a move up the inside there. That looked like that was right. Was that Rap Fennick in the number
16? It's
16.
Matthew
16.
Stenning, and that's the battle of a third in Class C with Johnny Hayes. And as you say, Stenning's gone through, and then the traffic the cars that are lapping them try to come either side. This time for Joel Oswick, I don't think it's worked out as well as it did a few laps ago. He's got caught on the wrong side, but he's now dealt with it okay, and that's going to give Johnny Hayes a chance to come back alongside Matthew Stenning in the Honda Civic FN2. And now here comes By Allen and Major as well. They've just about found some room to pass those two cars. I don't really remember the traffic being such a big factor as it has been in this race. So it's an early point for Club Enduro, and through now goes Major up the inside of By Allen to get 4th place into Brundle. I think it shows how competitive all the classes are. Everyone's battling with somebody, so that means when you catch the traffic, you've got not just one car to pass at a time, but normally a couple.
Absolutely, and that was really good experience driving there from Simon Major to spot the gap and get his Seat Cupra up the inside of the number 23 machine. Chris By Allen behind the wheel of that one right now as our battle for 3rd place makes its way onto the centre straight and making our way now across the start-finish line. Meanwhile then, there goes Simon Major, who looks around the outside of Joel Oswick then as we head away in towards Riches then. Can he hang it around the outside then as we make our way through in towards Riches? Yes, he can. He's got that move done. Really good lap then from Simon Major as he's got himself up into 3rd place. Joel Oswick then wants to have a move down the inside here as, well, that's a little bit deep there from the 3rd place driver then. But that's Simon Major just hanging on to that one. He has hung on to it now down in towards Palmer. So that is now, that's a really, really good lap there. Not understating that from Simon Major. He's got himself really up in the battle now.
Yes, he was 5th at the start of the previous lap, and now he is 3rd. So Joel Oswick, who was really quick at Croft, took the race win there with James Collins. He's just struggling to live with the pace of the top two, and now starting to lose further positions. So down to 4th he goes. He's got Chris By Allen on his tail now. BMW obviously a rear-wheel drive car. Just one. Oh, the Mazda's broken. The leading Mazda of Alan Henderson is slowing. We've seen this so many times with that car. And is it back up to speed now? It's certainly had a blip there, and it's lost the lead. So Scott Parkin has taken the lead. Simon Major's going to be 2nd now, but the MX-5 is going to drop to 5th by the looks of it. So it's not completely broken, but it certainly had a blip there where it lost a lot of time. Is it up to racing speed, or is it still not 100%, do you reckon, Kieran?
Well, it doesn't look 100% at this moment in time. I wonder if it's going to be needing of a pit stop visit, but will be outside of the window if that will be the case. So, yeah, testing times here for the team. Alan Henderson obviously leading the way for a long, long time. Looked like he was settling into that race. But the fact that he's only just really keeping up with Chris By Allen at the moment. We'll see if he makes his way darts exit stage right into the pit lane. Does he do that? No, he doesn't. So he stays out on track. So clearly it's something they're going to have to manage for now, and maybe they'll see what they can do when the pit window opens. Yeah, which will happen in about 7 minutes time. So if they can keep the car going till then, let's see if they can turn that into a mandatory stop, unless it sort of solves itself. James Collins hops over the curb there under pressure now for what is 3rd position from Chris By Allen. He can't go through, but the new race leader then is Scott Parkin, the Brands Hatch winner. He's 2 seconds ahead of Simon Major. 3rd is James Collins. 4th is Chris By Allen. 3rd is Joel Oswick, rather. 4th is Chris By Allen. 5th is Alan Henderson. Darren Ball is the best of the rest in 6th. Luke Browds is 7th. Alok Inyagari is 8th. Matthew Stockford is 9th. And Rob Fennick completes the top 10. But there's the new race leader then, Scott Parkin. He is out front for the first time in this race. Yeah, And with Scott Parkin, once he gets a lead, he never normally lets it go without a huge fight. He knows the pace that he needs to set in these early stages there, as we ride on board, if you're watching on the stream, with Scott Parkin then, as he makes his way onwards and upwards. 2.3 second lead he had at the line last time around, and down the long Bentley straight he'll now make his way turning in towards Brundle and Nelson. And it's a very tricky set of corners here. And a big sausage curb on the outside there. You really have to be careful as we'll make his way through the bomb hole and making his way through in towards Coram. And yeah, he's got a little bit of Lappery up ahead of him as well to deal with and contend with as well.
Top gear through Coram Curve, through in 6th gear, quite remarkably. So great to have that bit of onboard footage from the Dark Side developments. Audi TT, TDI of Scott Parkin, a 340 brake horsepower diesel engined car from the South Yorkshire specialists. An Audi TT from 2017. That was a Volkswagen Racing Cup car that was built originally by Slide Sports, but Dark Side Developments have converted it over to the TDI engine and have further developed it into this car that has been so fast this season. Set a new road sports lap record yesterday. Leads by 2.5 seconds over Simon Major. The MX-5 back up to speed and back on terms with Chris Allen ahead. So it was a blip seemingly on lap 11, and Alan Henderson back up to speed. So the top 5 separated by 6 seconds. We just got a brief view there of the Class C lead battle there in 2nd place. We can see now is Dave Connell, who is 1.9 seconds behind Sam Dennis, who continues to lead the way, but Sam Dennis and Ashmore will have a much longer pit stop to serve due to their race win last time out at Brands Hatch. So if Connell can stay with him, they're absolutely in contention for a class victory here at Snetterton. So there are the 2 Class C leaders heading down towards the hairpin. Class B, by the way, that's being headed by Chris Webster by 8 seconds over William Puttergill, with Sandro Ballesteros in 3rd. Class C is the smallest lead gap of any of the classes at this stage. Into the left-hander they go, the Honda Civic Type R. There, the Motion Motorsport run car, which is also 3rd in the Clubman's Cup for pre-2010 cars that don't have a sequential gearbox. That class being led by William Puttergill. But an early pit stop for Alan Blenko. Alan Blenko has made his way into the pit. So the car didn't have the pace it had in qualifying. He was dropping down the order, and I'm afraid into the pit lane comes the 47-year-old from Wiltshire, who started racing with the 750 Motor Club 25 years ago in Stock Hatch, before winning the Ford Fiesta Series and then racing in the British Touring Car Championship. A real shame for Alan Blenko. He's another pit visitor. I think he's the 3rd early pit visitor in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. That's obviously you trying to hang it out to see if you can make it to the pit stop window, as there's a change of position there.
Yeah,
or perhaps just that's Sam Dennis getting down the inside there.
He was on a weird line. I thought there was a problem, but no, it was just with the traffic. So I slightly overreacted to what wasn't a problem in the end for Sam Dennis.
It is all under control from Sam Dennis's point of view anyway.
Yeah, better than me. So Class A cars go through again. Similar gaps really between them. The gap between Oswick and Byallen's gone out, so Joel Oswick sort of got on with it. Here's a battle a bit further down the order. This is for 10th place. That's Rob Fennick in the BMW M2 that we got a glimpse of there, the Buckinghamshire racer in the BMW that he purchased from Holland over the winter. Meanwhile, there is number 20, that's Nick Selby, the accountant from Bishop Stortford in Hertfordshire, former low-cost racer in the 2003 BMW M3 that he shares with former low-cost race winner Tom Collar. And they're about to be lapped with Michael Downey in there as well, the Scotsman. They're about to be lapped by the race leader, Scott Parkin. Looks up the inside, he passes one. I think he will pass both cars without too much of a problem this time through. So 2.1 seconds, his lead gap now, with a couple of lapped cars between himself and Simon Major as they work lap number 14 of this race.
Absolutely, and we're about 90 seconds away from the pit window opening. So this is well, I wouldn't expect to see anybody come in for half hour in unless there's an issue, or unless they want an early stop and perhaps just run some lower fuel towards the end of the race and have the heavier car in the early part of the second stint, but then hopefully you start to have a little bit, maybe a bit clearer air, that you've only got traffic to worry about, no battling each other, which can hold you up and cost you time. These will all be, this is where the strategy comes in, and you'll notice that some drivers then, when they get to the hour mark, they'll pit in at that point. Oh, big lock up there for the number 34. So that's Greg Saunders, who's trying to find his way through down in towards Agostini. He's behind Rob Fennick at the moment, and that is a battle that's for 10th place in Class A. But yeah, it's really, Greg Saunders is really having to work hard for that one, and that lock-up just shows how hard he's pushing.
Yeah, and he's in his, I think he's in his Club Enduro debut today. Just behind him as well, he's got Matthew Hampson in the other M2. So he's got an M2 ahead of him and one behind him. Rob Fennick in the Speedtech Motorsport car. And then you've got the Matthew Hampson ASR Motorsport machine just behind Greg Saunders. Good to have a couple of the M2s. These are I think the latest BMW sort of entry-level racing car that you'll see race in the Nürburgring, in their endurance series, and in the 24 hours there, in their own class. So great to have them part of Club Enduro, I think for the first time this year. So they turn their way into Coram with in 10th position Rob Fennick, the 45-year-old from Buckinghamshire, who finished second last year in Class C, and he's upgraded to this Class A M2 CS racing car for this year. So the pit window has indeed opened. So anyone that pits now can make it their 3-minute mandatory stop. And some of the tactics will come down to how big the fuel tank is, how efficient the car is, to how long you can go on a stint. You obviously don't want to run out of fuel at the end of the race. But on the other side of it, if perhaps one driver is quicker than the other, do you want your quicker driver in for longer? It's Alan Henderson as he dropped away again there from by Alan. He was half a second or so behind at the start of the lap. It looked bigger than that, so as the Mazda may be struggling a little bit again.
Well, yeah, I'm just having a look at the last lap times though, and Henderson was 7 tenths quicker than Scott Parkin on that last lap, and a couple of tenths quicker than Major as well. So he's definitely on pace right now, but it's not the commanding pace we saw earlier on in this race, and that may be because of the tyres of. You've got to manage those tyres, as you mentioned at the start of the race, Josh. You've got to manage those tyres over the whole 2 hours. You really don't want to have to change tyres unless you really need to.
Scott Parkin in the pits. The race leader is into the pit lane, so presumably he thinks he can do 90 minutes on a tank full of fuel. And they're getting the pit stop out early. That's the tactics they've gone for, and they should lose a full lap here in a pit stop. Because he'll have to be in for that extra 30 seconds as well. So he'll be in for 3.5 minutes. They go over a lap down, and they have taken that tactic. And are they going for a tyre change as well here, do you reckon, Kieran?
They're just checking the brakes right now, but that looks like the same tyres going back on, that I can see. But yeah, a bit of adjustment at the front of the car as well. There's only a limited amount of personnel that can work on the car at any time. So Scott Parkin stays in the car. He's having his chat with his engineer just to make sure everything's all good. That's Club Motorsport. There's some duct tape just in case as well. A roll of duct tape in hand just in case anything is needed. But yeah, it's off on the jacks, and the team are getting to work. And the fan at the front of the car to just cool down the car whilst it's stopping.
So this is the battle for 5th place now. Scott Parkin's pitted, and that is between Darren Ball and Luke Brow. I was just hearing from Kieran Mogg down there in the pit lane that they were clearing the grass out of Scott Parkin's car. If you remember, he was on the grass after 7 or 8 laps, so perhaps the car was starting to overheat. So they've made use of this early stop to get all the grass out. She said they were checking the front left-hand corner as well, and presumably that car's got a really big fuel tank. And I don't think they fueled the car up there, did they? So perhaps it's one that can go for the full 2 hours without needing to refuel.
Absolutely, yeah. And if that's the fact that it was able to keep that pace up on a full tank of fuel, or at least what's on the fuel to get it to the end of the race, that's pretty impressive pace there from Scott Parkin. That might be a huge warning sign for all the other drivers and teams out there that, yeah, Scott Parkin might be able to do this on 1 tank of fuel.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be an advantage in quicker pit stop, but it does mean you don't have to worry about that element during the pit stop process, which is helpful. Obviously, the other thing is, the other question, can he really do it on 2 hours on a tank full of fuel, and is he going to get to the end without the need for another pit stop. So the battle for 5th position between Darren Ball and Luke Browse then continues on. So this has been a nice dice for a while between those two Cupras. Meanwhile, Simon Major then leads for the first time here at Snetterton in the Club Enduro Championship. He's 2 seconds ahead of the Croft race winner Joel Oswick, with Chris by Alan there in 3rd. Alan Henderson back up to speed again. He's there in 4th. And we can see there then the race leader, Simon Major, in the car that he shares with Justin Middleton. They went well in road sports yesterday as well as a precursor to this Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship race. So car number 18, it's a plain white Seat Cupra that leads the way here, Kieran.
Absolutely, indeed. As just another one, a Class A car in the pits is the number 20. So Nick Selby is going to hand over to Tom Collar to take it to the end of the race. So Tom confident then that he can last out the 80 so minutes that he will be out there for to get to the end of the race. And yeah, that's a driver change that's early. So perhaps there that Tom Collar is the weapon that they need to get them to the end of the race.
The Alan Blenko car had got an electrical fault, which is cutting the throttle, I'm hearing. There goes Scott Parkin. He's about to go back into the race, but just get that update from Kieran Morgier. It was an electrical fault which was cutting the throttle of Alan Blenko's car. The mechanics are currently fixing the car, and Claire Norman will be getting aboard that.
Now, that's the thing. So that 444 came in before the pit window opened, so they will need to still serve a 3-minute mandatory stop after that. So really, they're going to be well down the order, and I think the order of the day is now we'll get this car to the checkered flag and hope that it holds together.
Yeah, and perhaps a bit of learning as well, because it's a new car for the pair of them, and Claire for a long time has been racing historic BMWs with her dad. So therefore it's such a different car, this modern touring car, to get used to. They went really well at Brands Hatch. They finished, I think, 5th at Brands. So that was a really good result. So a real shame that they had this problem early on in this 2 hours. So there goes Scott Parkin. He's reclaimed the circuit in 22nd position. He's made the early pit stop. And then we just have to wait how that all unfolds. He's come out 1 lap, not quite 2 behind. So he would have had to stop for 3 minutes plus that extra 30 seconds. So yeah, that's sort of 2.5 laps, isn't it? So that, or 2 3/4 laps. So that makes sense to why not that far behind him on the road is Simon Major, who has lost the lead, hasn't he? Because Joel Oswick is ahead. We didn't see that happen, but it's happened at the start of the lap on lap number 18. Then Joel Oswick has got himself to the front. So he will become the 4th different leader that we've had in this race.
Good stuff, brilliant stuff. And yeah, Joel Oswick then leading away in the number 4. And yeah, he's doing a really good job with his BMW M3. Of course, he's got that success penalty you mentioned as well, Josh, but he hasn't got as much as Simon Parkin, so he'll be trying to sort of, it's 10 seconds, isn't it, he's got in that back pocket, but he's got 20 seconds to serve extra as a success penalty if memory serves me well from the start.
Sorry, 30 for both Oswick and Parkin. They've won the 2 races, and because Oswick and Collins didn't compete at Brands Hatch, they've got to carry that 30-second penalty forward. So because they were both race winners, they've got 30, but no penalties, success penalties for the other 3 that are involved in this lead battle. So they've both got lots of time to find over the course of this race, especially with how close it is.
Absolutely. Well, that just adds to the drama towards the end, doesn't it, really? We'll get to see how it all plays out. 1 hour, 22 minutes on the clock. Pit window well and truly open. We've also had the 171 into the pits then, so that's Semel Osman handing over to Senna Osman in Class B.
Yep, that's right. That's the E30 M3, one of the oldest cars on the grid. It's a really well-prepared BMW as well. So that was a very slow lap for Major when he lost the lead, a 2:06.8, so he's already fallen 1.8 seconds behind Joel Oswick. So there goes Joel, who's been a recipient of the John Miles Award in the past with the 750 Motor Club for the most promising young driver in the racing club, which comes with a financial reward. There's the battle between the 2 M2s. So interestingly, I think it looks like the Hampson and Schulz car, that's got a big wing on it, which wouldn't have been standard with the M2, but you can do that. This is a development category, as long as you stick to the regulations, whereas I think the Rob Fenix car, probably that looks like a standard M2 CS racing car. that you would find on the continent. So there it is, number 10, Rob Fennick, who he shares with Andy Shepherd during the course of this race. Another car that's pitted is 168. That's Simon Glenn, who has raced in the Nürburgring 24 Hours on 4 different occasions, including finishing on his class podium before. He's out in the slightly earlier M2, the M235i, which is another BMW Motorsport built car for the Nürburgring races. And Simon Glenn then into the pits, and he will hand over to David Embury during the course of their pit stop. Meanwhile, this battle for what is 10th position between these two BMWs carries on up across the line. There is Matthew Hampson, who will hand over to Andy Schulz, the former Brit car champion.
Yes, as these two have been battling right from the very get-go. Down in towards Wilson they go, and back on the power. Rob Fennick doing well to just keep behind the charge of Matthew Hampson for what is right now 10th place in class, 2nd place in Class B. William Puttergill has brought the 83 into the pit, so he'll be handing over to Ryan Bensley after that 3-minute stop.
Yep, so there they are in the pit lane. We can see now the Cantor Holland liveried Honda Civic, the Motion Motorsport team go to work. Will Puttergill that gets out of the car, the 40-year-old from Nottingham, who previously raced in the Type R Trophy before being a class winner in road sports, and he won his championship within Brit car last year. They've got a K24 engine in the car that Motion Motorsport run. You can see the car being refueled now, and there has to be a member of the team with a fire extinguisher just to make sure everything's happening safely, which it is. And he will hand over to Ryan Bensley, who won the I think the 2009 Stock Hatch Championship with the 750 Motor Club. So it's great to have Ryan back with the club again this weekend, as he was at Brands Hatch, where the pair took the Class B victory. So Ryan, really quick driver, and we'll see what he can do about the Ginetta that's led throughout the duration so far, the Matthew Tidmarsh and Chris Webster car. Meanwhile, there's a battle for 5th out on the track. Darren Ball just ahead of Luke Browse.
Yeah, Luke Browse was sort of looking left, looking right, down towards Wilson. Couldn't quite find the way through. Will he try and find a move? Once again, he tries that tactic, goes inside, then looking for the outside move now, going in towards Agostini. He'll get back onto the power, looking to try and get the better run out of Agostini towards Hamilton. But decides to tuck into the toe that Darren Ball is creating right now, and that is a problem for the number 90. That is that Mazda. Alan Henderson jumping out of the car. He's out of the race.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's on the infield.
There's double
possibly
yellows down towards Oggies there.
Yeah.
So it's probably...
Yeah, I can just see him actually just by the marshal post out of the commentary box window this is, so pointing always works good on radio. Alan Henderson then out of the car, and we saw the blip it had, 20 minutes ago or so after it led, and I'm afraid the MX-5's only lasted 40 minutes. It's an awesome car. It's a great bit of kit, but it is a bit unreliable at times as the team continue to work out the gremlins. A Mazda MX-5 Mark 1 was never made to go that quickly. It's going about 20 seconds a lap faster than the cars in the MX-5 Cup, so it goes to prove what they've done with that car. It's a great feat of engineering. They've just got to work on the reliability, and once that's there, I think a really good result is going to come. But I'm afraid for Alan Henderson, out of 4th position, he has retired the car out of Palmer. So there are double waved yellows there. Hopefully the car is in a safe place, but we'll keep an eye on those yellow flags, and I think in a moment we will be able to hear from Kieran Mogg, who has lined up an interview, or he's lining up an interview for us at the moment.
I wonder
down
who he's
there
picked.
in the pit lane.
I wonder who he's got. Yeah, I'm rubbing my hands together. So we'll hand down to Kieran Mogg down in the pit lane. Who have you found, Kieran?
Well, I'm down here with Alan Blencoe, and what initially started as electrical force has just kind of gone mad in the last about minute or so. Could you explain to us what's happened?
Yeah, so race started nicely, and on about lap 3 we picked up an electrical fault, so it kept cutting out, so we're just falling down the order until it got progressively worse and we just couldn't continue any longer, so we thought we'd bring it in, see if we can put it right and get Claire out in the car. But as we put it here, started running through things, the electrics have gone on, off, and now the fire extinguishers. gone off, so it's terminal. We're not going anywhere now.
Yeah, we were just obviously looking at the Civic that had just pitted next door to you, and I noticed underneath the car it started absolutely flooding with the coolant, I'm guessing. And then if John looks inside the car as well, we can see the fire extinguisher has just catapulted straight into the seat and everything, which not exactly what you want.
Not what I want at all, no. But at least I managed to escape out there without getting soaked anyway.
I mean, you would have been safe if this fire extinguisher gone off with you.
Pardon? Sorry?
You would have been safe. At least you'd been covered.
Yeah, at least we know it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, shame for the weekend to end like that for you.
Yeah, that's okay, but thanks very much. We'll be back at Silverstone and continue there.
Absolutely. Well, fingers crossed for the next one.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Right, back up to you guys in the commentary.
Thanks, Kieran. That isn't quite what we were expecting, I don't think, from the pit lane report. So quite a dramatic moment for the Alan Blencoe and Claire Norman duo. So it's great to have them in the championship, but not the way that they expected this race to go.
No, I was not expecting retirement due to a fire extinguisher. That's a new one in my book, but there we go. As we rejoin the battle for what is now 4th place in class, of course, with all the pit stops happening around them. Darren Ball in the 25, Luke Browse in the 22. They have been inseparable for the last 45 minutes as they head their way now down in towards Ritchie's, with the 25 still ahead of the 22. So Darren Ball keeping Luke Browse behind him as they head their way up towards Wilson.
Yeah, both long-term club enduro racers. Darren Ball's raced Porsches and BMWs in the past in the championship, and the Browse father and son team, they had a BMW CSL in the past, but they've both now switched to these Cupras, which I think are good, reliable and consistent cars. They sort of they're a lot more forgiving than perhaps the others, but the others maybe that fraction quicker. Things like the M3s and the Audi TT and the Mazda MX-5 on the peak pace, maybe that bit quicker than the Cupras, but I understand the Cupras perhaps that bit more driver friendly.
I was going to say, Josh, don't mention how reliable they are. That's opening yourself up there, I'm afraid. But yeah, fingers crossed for them. You don't have to run into Darren or Luke after this race.
Oh, we've done that before, so
you've done that before, definitely. I definitely have in the past. But yeah, still a great battle between them. Bit of a kick up of dust from a car up ahead of them at this moment in time. But yeah, the battle still goes on between those, and the battle keeps going on everywhere out on track. I think that's Simon Parkin you see in the back of down in towards Wilson, looking to get his way up the order after his early pit stop. Pitted inside the window, of course, so he's happy to continue on. And I think there is actually a little bit of, I think what was happening there, right on the outside in towards Riches, is a little bit of the bollard that normally hangs around the inside of the corner. I couldn't tell if that was the outside of Riches or the outside going in towards Wilson. Either way, there's just that little bit of debris that's right off the racing line, so shouldn't need to put it under yellow flags or a slippery surface, because who would want to make a move around the outside of Riches? We've never seen that before.
Not when there's lots of traffic to deal with, especially. Scott Parkin there, then he's up to 16th in the race. Meanwhile, Class C, every time we go back to Class C, there's a battle on. It's a bit like at Le Mans. You always look back to the GT class, there's always a battle there. Well, today in Club Enduro, it's look back into Class C and there's a battle going on. And they're about to lap the Matthew Simonite Mazda that's going to go a lap down, which is part of their category. But such is the pace that's been shown by Sam Dennis and by Dave Connell in this opening stint. They're going to put that car a lap down. But this has been a great stint by Dave Connell, the design engineer from the West Midlands. He's only in his 4th season of racing in this car that he built back in 2020. He's upgraded it with this aero package, and it's got a homemade carbon fibre splitter. It's got rear wing supports and body panels all designed by Dave. And it shows how well this Mazda MX-5 goes, keeping up with that Honda Civic that's dominated this year, really. Sam Dennis in Class C, it's the championship leader. They've just actually been passed by Scott Parkin for position, so Scott Parkin will move up a couple of spots. Not that that'll worry the Class C leaders, they are battling amongst themselves. Dave Connell's got a little bit held up though, lapping the Matthew Simonite MX-5, the car that runs I think 100% on synthetic fuels. So that's a great innovative, which is to be ever more important in motorsport going forward throughout this decade and further into the future. So that car running 100% on P1 synthetic fuels, which are fossil free.
Great stuff indeed. Let's continue picking out our battles out on track then, as there's the number 8 Janetta. So that is Matthew Tidmarsh, who's out there right now, and currently leader of the B class right now. So doing a fine job there. But there's the 18 looking for a move down the inside there, not for position, because that's Simon Major who's trying to find his way through and put a lap there as finds his way through. And not far behind them as well will be Chris Byallen, who will dive down the inside of Ginetta, the Ginetta just staying well out of the way there. As we mentioned previously, it's not up to the bit of lappery that sort of dives out of the way or just completely catapults off the racing line. It's up to the faster cars to make the move safely.
Yep, absolutely right, Kieran. It's not Formula One rules. I think Twitter exploded last week at Le Mans as you had Formula One fans watching sports car racing for the first time, but no such worries here. So Chris Webster, he finished second at Croft with Matthew Tidmarsh in that car, so they're looking for their first win in the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship in that ex-Rothgo Ginetta G40, the car that Oliver Goethe did the training in before he went racing. He's now a race winner in the FIA Formula 3 Championship. But for Chris Webster and Matthew Tidmarsh, this is all going quite nicely at this stage. They're 38 seconds ahead of Sandro Ballesteros, who's second. Michael Downey is third in Class B, but we're obviously making that early stop where the Brands Hatch winners, which has now got Ryan Bentley in the car that William Puttergill started, and Bentley setting personal best laps in the 2 minutes 10s recently, and they are going, we have to see, much like with Scott Parkin, once all the other pit stops unfold, who will come out on top of those individual class battles. There's the leaders across the line. Joel Oswick 2.3 seconds ahead of Simon Major, with Chris Byallen re-catching again. Byallen back on terms then with the Cooper ahead of him, of Simon Major, and he was the fastest of those three on the most recent lap.
Yeah, looking to see if he can find his way past. They have to negotiate their way through a little bit of lappery right now, as that's David Connell trying to find his way past Rob Fennick, and well, is that the other way around? Perhaps Rob Fennick's trying to put a lap there as they head their way through in towards Palmer. But three different classes all in that four cars there, all trying to get a little bit of lappery done and dusted. Chris Byallen will go down the inside of Rob Fennick then. Rob Fennick knows he's there, will leave the door open, and nicely done then from the two of them.
So that means everyone up to ninth place has been lapped now, with Fennick going a lap down. So the pace of those first three, plus Scott Parkin, really shows there. After that bit of traffic that Dave Connell had to deal with, he's fallen 6 seconds behind Sam Dennis, so that really cost him. And Sam Dennis has done a 2:13.641 as his new best lap in Class C. And that is a new lap record in Class C, a lap record that stood, I think, for about 6 years. So that's an impressive lap time that Sam Dennis has just done in that Honda Civic. Just see there the Tom Stedman and Mike Cooper Mazda MX-5, the 333 racing car from 2009. Good to have them out. I think they made their debut here a year ago and are enjoying themselves. They are in fourth position in Class C, behind Sam Dennis, behind Dave Connell and Matthew Stenning, who is third in the category.
John Hayes is into the pits in that BMW 318, fifth in Class C when they pitted in. So Jonathan Hayes is now going to hand over there the car to Subiani. And
sorry to interrupt, Kieran. There's a drama in Class B because Chris Webster has not come through, I don't think. He's dropping down the timing screen. He's not in the pit lane as far as I'm aware. So that means this Audi TT has taken the lead of the class. Andrei Ballesteros in the Racing with Autism Audi TT leads Class B. And what has happened to that Ginetta G40 that had such a big lead previously?
Yeah, I'm just trying to look around at the top of the circuit, see if there's any yellow flags, but I can't see any right now. So unless they've pulled off exit stage somewhere, perhaps in towards Nelson and Brundle, I can't really see anything on toward right now, so it's a mystery we may have to solve.
We're hearing it's gone perhaps into the paddock via the back entrance and into the garage, so getting the confirmation from that. Also off the circuit is number 20 Tom Collar in the BMW M3, the Kent man who finished fourth in the low cost championship in the past in this E46 M3, so that's down the Bentley Straight. But also hearing perhaps with a bigger drama from the race point of view. A class leader, Chris Webster, has retired, and the car has gone into the garage, and that is out of the race. So thanks to our pit line team and to Trevor Gregory as well of the 750 Motor Club, who's sent me that through. So there's lots of dramas all of a sudden happening here, Kieran.
Absolutely. That 20 has stopped just before the passenger bridge, pedestrian bridge I should say, down the Bentley Straight. So is it out of the way enough, or will that car need to be recovered? That's going to be the burning question.
I would think they would leave it there, but we shall see, because we've done the same with the Mazda, haven't we, further around the circuit. So this that retirement really could help Ryan Bensley here in number 83, another car that has the 30-second success penalty they're going to have to come back from, and another car that pitted early in this race. I'd say Ryan Bensley, super quick driver. I think after he raced in Stock Catch, he did some commentary with Ian Sloman as well, so he can talk about racing as well as drive, but that's what he does more so nowadays. He returned to Civic Cup racing recently, and now it's great to have him out in Club Enduro with Will Puttergill. The teammate car, the other Motion Motorsport car, well, that still leads Class C by 6.6 seconds over Dave Connell. But they've got this 30-second success penalty, and they're certainly not 30 seconds ahead, 6.6 seconds. As anyone who have a good at maths, I hope you'd be able to tell that 6.6 seconds is less than 30. So therefore, the Mazda really is in the driving seat at this stage, but we've still got just over half of the race to go. We've had 55 minutes of racing so far, and now 65 to go.
Yeah, a couple of teams have pitted in A class. It's the number 10. So Rob Fennick is going to hand over the machine to Andrew Shepherd. So that BMW M2, Andrew Shepherd is going to be in there. And there is the mystery solved then. The number 8 Ginetta in Class B out of this race, driven straight into the garage. So it missed the pit lane beam. So that's an interesting one. Maybe it ducked underneath it.
Yeah, I don't know if it came in via the back entrance, because there are a few places at Snetterton where you can pull off and get into the pit lane via the back entrance. And Chris Webster having a look. He's even got the Rothgo Golf liveried overalls to go with the car, so that's fantastic. The car that he shares with Matthew Tidmarsh, and perhaps we're here once they've investigated what the problem is with Kieran Mogg down there in the pit lane. Meanwhile, second and third are nose to tail now, heading up towards Coram Curve. Simon Major and Chris by Allen. They had a good battle in Road Sports yesterday as well, didn't they? And they've just continued that on throughout this opening hour of Tegiwa Club Enduro at Snetterton.
Absolutely, and getting back onto the power as they make their way down the centre straight then. So Simon Major looking to keep himself ahead right now of Chris by Allen, but it's right now second place in this race as they'll make their way up towards Riches now. Still line of stern right now, but there is a safety car. The safety car's been deployed.
It's certainly been prepared, and yeah, the boards have gone out, haven't they? So safety car is out, and you cannot pit, so the pit lane is now closed. Anyone that had already come into the pit lane as such as number 16 Matthew Stenning, they can continue their pit stop. And this, I think, is why another reason why Scott Parkin pitted early. I think he's managed to keep ahead of the leaders, hasn't he? So instead of being about a lap and 3/4 behind, he will be just 1 lap behind. I'm sure that's a big advantage to Scott Parkin for making that early pit stop.
Absolutely. So, yeah, not only has Scott rolled the dice there, but of course had to get the grass out of the front of the car, as Kieran Mogg down in the pit lane alluded to us. So it's worked quite well so far, as we'll see what happened there. But, yeah, neutralises the race for now. As Josh has said, pit lane is closed, so no one can pit under safety car conditions.
It's the alternator that's gone on the Ginetta, so that Chris Webster's figured it out. Not sure how easy of a fix that might be during the course of the race. Obviously it's pretty terminal from a result point of view. Potentially terminal also is the M3. There's lots of smoke emitting this car. This is why the safety car is needed. It's not just a simple park on the grass, leave the car there, because there's some attention needed. Here's the Matthew Stenning and John Peerless pit stop, and this really could put the MJ Motorsport car into contention. And this is what I was telling you about earlier. It's the two drivers getting involved with the pit stop. It's a proper clubman's effort there, particularly in the Class C competition.
Absolutely. So fuel going in then to top up. So because they were in the pits before the safety car was deployed. They are allowed, of course, to complete their 3-minute mandatory pit stop. So the fuel goes into the car. Once that's done, then they'll get the other driver strapped in, ready to go, and that will be that machine on its way. So John Peerless will be jumping into the car to take this car to the checkered flag.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll see how that works its way out. The FN2 Honda Civic. So Matt Stenning, who started, the driver from Oxfordshire, who started racing 3 years ago in the Civic Cup. But has more recently been in Club Enduro. Before all of that, in the 1990s, he competed in the British Jet Ski Championship, which I'm probably the only one on the grid who has done that. So that's
waves in that competition, that's for sure.
That's Matt Stenning then in the Honda Civic Type R FN2. He will hand over to John Peerless for the second half of the race.
Yep, as the pit stop gets well underway then. So it is Joel Oswick then who is at the top of the order on our timing screen. Simon Major in second place, and then it's Chris Byallen rounding off the top three. That's overall and in Class A. In Class B, Sandro Balestros in the number 1, currently running 10th overall, leading Class B. Second in Class B is Michael Downey in that Porsche Boxster, and rounding off the top 3 in Class B, it's Brian Bensley. In that Honda Civic Type R. They have already stopped. The two ahead in the B class have not stopped. And then in Class C we have Sam Dennis leading ahead of Dave Connell, and then rounding off the top 3 it's Michael Hooper. All of the top 3 in Class C still yet to stop.
Yeah, that's right. So that's all still sort of status quo, isn't it? And you'd think that would close that gap right back up between Sam Dennis and Dave Connell. I think for Michael Hooper, he's got caught the wrong side of the safety car, so he's going to go the best part of a lap down, and that's how it works out in the classes sometimes. Although if we got a wave by still to come, we might do, because I think that's actually the Hooper car that's behind the safety car, not the overall race leader at this stage, Joel Oswick. So the safety car will go past that incident that's being dealt with for Tom Collar. Such a shame for Tom, the driver from Dover, who started racing back in 2007 after competing in the Super 1 Senior TKM Karting Championships, but he raced in low cost. He twice finished 4th in the championship, and with Nick Selby, who he races with today, they won the Team Challenge 10 years ago. And Tom went on to win the M3 Cup, the championship in 2018. He's been a race winner in Mazda 7s as well, but that 3.2 litre S54 straight 6 BMW engine has rather let him down, I think, today. And that car that was crashed a few years ago at Spa, they've really struggled to get it to work as they would like, and it's been a bit problematic again, I think, here at Snetterton this weekend. So that's a car that's out of the race. So the cars continue on then behind the safety car at this stage into the second half, so it's almost like a half-time stoppage, this safety car period.
An unintended half-time stoppage, that's for sure. Yeah, half-time here at the
Swap ends.
Club Enduro Championship, of course. But yeah, as you were saying earlier, this safety car, the fact that Scott Parkin pitted in so early is pretty much when the window opened to not only sort out the car, but to undertake the 3-minute mandatory stop. As you said, now the safety car is out there, it brings him to within a lap of the lead. And 2 laps at the moment, isn't it?
So is he hoping for a wave by here? Let's have a look.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah, so the safety car hasn't caught the leader. It's caught, I think it's the Michael Hooper Mazda. It's the James Matthew Simonite Mazda, rather. So yeah, there's multiple cars behind the safety car who are not the race leader. So there's kind of car that's come into the pit lane. Perhaps that's been in there a little while. That's 481 Ed Christie and Andy Gay.
Yes,
but
that came in before the safety cars. So,
but yeah, Scott Parkin is just ahead of the overall leader behind the queue, isn't he? So he's hoping that there will be a wave by here, like we had in Road Sports yesterday. But what might not happen is that queue, particularly again, it's a Class C car that's at the front of the field. They may not catch up the back of the queue before the safety car comes back in, even if there is a wave by. So that would go against Scott Parkin's tactics. So we'll see what happens before the safety car comes into the pits.
Because even with the wave by, of course, you've got that Class C machine at the top of or at least the de facto head car at the moment. So Matthew Simonite will be taking that one there, and we'll see. The wave around, if it does happen, we'll see Simonite manage to get away from the rest of the pack. But once it's all green flag, it does still mean that Simon Parkin can't do any overtaking until he's past the start-finish line, and the green flag he's actually seen across the line. So the time he gains, he might actually lose again once the race gets started.
And that's super important. As you just said, you can't overtake before the timing line when the safety car comes in. Some people didn't do that in road sports yesterday and were penalised for it. So that is what I would imagine at the top of a lot of drivers' minds after yesterday's penalties. So Ed Gay has gone back out, taken over then from Edward Christie. And yeah, it was a bit of a longer pit stop for them. The Tom Collar car is now being recovered, so it shouldn't be too long before we can start to look forward to a restart. We just saw lots of shots of broken cars in the pit lane. Simon Glenn's at BMW, the M235, which is generally such a reliable car because of BMW Motorsport's presence, but that car is another car that is broken. And who has Kieran Mogg found down in the pit lane? Is it a broken car or is it a driver?
Well, we're down here with the Stricken 168 and the driver. Simon, you just said it was driver error. Could you explain to us what happened?
Yeah, I started all right, got into second place, I think, and just around the back, past the hairpin, on about the fourth lap, I went a little bit too hot, the car spun, went on the inside, ramped over the curb, just missed the barrier, and then I carried on for about another 15 laps, thought the car was fine, and then a judder started, and unfortunately, as I turned into the right-hander at the bottom of the straight, everything, the under tray exploded, which cut a coolant pipe and took the tyre to pieces, so we had to bring it in to be safe, and it's turned to be a gearbox cooler, so there's no fluid in that, so we can't really run it anymore, which is unfortunate for my co-driver. It hasn't driven today.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely a sad way to end the weekend. But did you feel that you had some pace while it was working?
Yeah, the car was going well. We're probably a second up on qualifying, maybe a little bit more than that. A little bit ragged. The tyres are very hot. Car moving about quite a lot. But yeah, a lot of fun out there. It's just a shame it ended that way, really. There's nothing wrong with the car. The car was perfect. Driver error, I'm afraid.
To give you at least some confidence going into the next round that you had that pace.
I'm going to let my co-driver start and see what he can do.
Might be a good idea. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much for chatting with us, and good luck for the next one.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, thanks. So back to you guys in commentary.
Thanks, Kieran. Good to hear there from Simon Glenn. A really experienced driver as well, so a rare mistake. A four-time Nürburgring 24-hour starter and a podium finisher in class at that event as well. So the safety car wave by has happened, and well, drivers shouldn't be overtaken behind the safety car. I'm glad we haven't got that on the live stream at the moment. Yeah. But hopefully the message will get through that they shouldn't be overtaken at the moment, because the safety car is still out. It hasn't come in yet, and the lights are still flashing. So I think we're going to get one more lap behind the safety car. And then interestingly, we have actually got the top three behind, haven't we, in a line. So you've got Joel Oswick, Simon Major and Chris By-Allen right there. So they are ready for a battle when we get to the restart here, Kieran.
Absolutely, and well, as you said, we will have one more lap under the safety car. Now that the wave around has happened, it normally means we're very close to getting back to green flag racing. And of course, once the safety car window has, once the safety car has been withdrawn, the pit window will be back open, but they have to complete the lap, because technically if they pitted whilst the safety car pits in, they would have pitted in under the safety car window. At least that's how I interpret the rules. We'll see how the other teams interpret that rule.
I think as long as the boards aren't out, they should be okay, from what I understand. So I think you probably can. We'll see what happens. But it's probably best if you can do another lap anyway, just from peace of mind point of view. So
we've had, sorry,
yep.
Josh, the 16's come back into the pit. So John Peerless there has brought the Civic back in.
Yeah, so that's a drama for someone we thought we might have just judged the strategy pretty well. But John Peerless then, as you say, back into the pit lane in their Honda Civic Type R. See there, James Winstanley, sometimes race driver, sometimes 750 Motor Club's communication manager, just describing, and I think the regulations to one of the teams, perhaps talking about when the safety car comes in, can they follow the safety car into the pit lane, which we were just wondering about.
So just to see who bites on that one.
So we've lost about a third of the grid, haven't we, from this race? So it has been quite an attritional race. For the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship, really going to show that enduro part of the name. It's in the title. It's an endurance formula. It's not just about being the fastest driver. It's not just about being consistently fast. You've got to get that car to the end of the race.
That's step one, isn't it? You've got to see the checkered flag first and then worry about the position later on. So that's always the priority, the top priority. there. The pack of wave arounds, we'll call them now, are just making their way back around the final corner and onto the start finish straight. And I think we've had from Trevor Gregory a clarification on the rule.
Yeah, Trevor, thanks, Trev. You can't follow the safety car in, so
Okay.
I suspect that is also what was being discussed down there in the pit lane. So you do have to do that one further lap. So you're all right, Kieran?
Yeah.
So how many Club Enduro races have you seen? How many have I seen? Who knows the rules better?
Lucky guess. I think we'll put that down to.
So we found that one out. So yeah, that queue is about half a lap behind the safety car train, isn't it? So it hasn't got the fastest car behind her. So I think what was happening a lap ago, rather than someone actually overtaking behind the safety car, they were trying to encourage the other cars to go quicker. But if you're in a Mazda MX-5, you can't go as fast as you can in a Cooper TCR car. It's as simple as that.
You try explaining that to some of the Class A drivers. I wouldn't want to be on the giving end of that one.
So the lights are still on the safety car. Is it going to come in at the end of this? That's got
just
parking. Oh, they've gone off now. So Scott has got parking gained. I think he probably will have done, won't he? Because that queue will be pretty much caught up. So he'll certainly be closer than what he was before the safety car came out. So we're about to get racing back underway. There's going to be 50 minutes on the clock. And we're going to have a sprint, perhaps to the pit lane over the next lap or so from the leading cars. So James Collins, Simon Major and Chris Byallen at the front of the queue. We've got two Class C leaders in there as well, split by the Class B motorsport car. So we'll look out for that battle too between Ashmore and between Sam Dennis and Dave Connell, and then they will be handing over to Ashmore and Alex Wilkinson-Hughes, and we'll see how the two drivers' pace is different. But we know the Honda will be a longer pit stop due to that success penalty. So the safety car in, and the cars will get back up to speed, Kieran.
They will indeed, and Joel Oswick will get proceedings back under green flag racing, met with the green flag at the start finish line, so our leaders can now go racing down in towards Riches then. So Joel Oswick ahead of Simon Major at the moment, and we have a bit of battling going on between the two Civics. That's the 83 machine, that's Ryan Bensley, who goes up the inside of the 195 of Sam Dennis, and then we have the Class C battle up and resuming here. Dave Connell looking to see if he can try and pass the 195 Civic. He's up the inside, gets the braking spot on there, and on the restart Dave Connell takes over the Class C lead.
Scuderia Dave back to the front for Dave Connell, so this is great to see, this really competitive Class C battle between the Mazda MX-5 and the Honda Civic. So they get to Palmer, the rest of the field are getting the green flag at the line now. So for Darren Ball and Luke Browse, they will get back up to speed, and amongst all of that will be Scott Parkin. So Scott Parkin in 11th position, so he's about a lap and a half behind. A lap is 2 minutes, pit stops are 3 minutes, a lap and a half, but you've got to trundle down the pit lane too. So it's going to be tight, I think, after the pit stops, but it might just now be advantage Scott Parkin.
Might be, but yeah, and also Joel Oswick has that penalty to serve, that success penalty to serve, as well as handing over to James Collins for the rest of the race. As I think we're going to see a little bit of, as you said, a sprint to the pit lane at this point, because for most of these teams in the order, this is their first opportunity now to pit in once the safety car has now been withdrawn. So we'll have to wait and see who takes the bite then, because the pit window's open for another, there's a lot of maths there, 33 minutes. Oh, I got the first one right.
The important bit. Here's the battle of the fourth. Darren Ball versus Luke Browse. The two Cupras have got themselves together, 4th and 5th in the race. Not far behind them, Alok Inyagard, the former single-seater racer. He raced in F1000 previously. So they go out onto the back straight as the race leader comes across the line. So Joel Oswick does 32 laps, and as everything's cooled down, he's just done a personal best lap, a 2 minutes 3.777. Chris Byallen is second now, though, because Simon Major has come into the pit lane. As the pit window is back open, he will come in to hand over to Justin Middleton. He's not the only one. Matthew Hampson is in too. He will hand over to Andy Schulz during their pit stop, which is ongoing now. I wonder if Darren Ball and Luke Browse will also consider pitting at this point. Browse got a bit of a slide on there out of Bombhole, which was quite interesting. Tap of the brakes as it goes into Coram Curve, where the corner just tightens up, so you have to keep reducing the speed all the way through the corner, then dramatically brake, go down the sequential gearbox through Murray's and then out of the corner. They will not pit, they will continue their battle.
They will indeed, and for good fortune as well, they'll keep on their battle as they head their way down the start-finish straight down towards Riches then, and Browse was looking for a move down the inside, but Darren Ball covered him off. Now for Darren Ball, he's only a single driver entry. For Luke Browse, he will have to hand over to Paul Browse in the pit stop, so one with a driver change, one without, so these might be the final few laps here where Darren Ball battles with Luke, but he will battle a Browse by the end of the race.
I think it's Paul that will be getting into the car a little bit later on. Lots of other cars have pitted as well now, as expected. Sam Dennis, who was in the Class C lead battle, he's in. Alok Inyagar is in. Sandro Ballesteros, Matthew Stockford, Matthew Simonite, Michael Hooper, Michael Downey and Sandro Ballesteros all have pitted. There you can see 82 refuelling the Capture Motorsport Cupra, which was started by Alok Inyagar, and then Ben Williams, I think, owns the car. He will get in for the second half. And the 82 car then has had a consistent first couple of rounds. They scored 15 points so far. Also still in the pits, you can see John Peerless, so that problem continues on their Honda Civic. Meanwhile, James Collins still has to wait in the pit lane because Joel Oswick is carrying on, and he's set yet another personal best lap, a 2 minutes 3.764 to put out a 5-second lead. What's going on here? There was two cars in close combat, and number 10 has run out wide. That is, I think, Andrew Shepherd now at the board, the BMW M2.
Yeah, a bit of a bizarre one. Oh, and that's a spinner there. Someone who's had a bit of a tumble is Darren Ball. So I don't know if that was a case of he was battling away with Luke Browse at the moment. Is there any damage to the car? Can't really see anything on the left-hand side of it. But going through the paces then. So the battle between the two Seats then ends in a little bit of misery there for Darren Ball.
Here in the 82 car we just saw, the Alok Inyagar and Ben Williams car, that's had overheating brakes, and now as everything's cool or come into the pit lane, all come to a stop, all that heat soak I think has caused a few issues. So we'll see if that pit stop is elongated because of that before Ben Williams can head back out onto the circuit. So a few dramas down there in the pit lane, understand. Meanwhile, Joel Oswick carries on. We can see here number 66, fifth in Class C, is Paul Sabiani, who's taken over from Johnny Hayes in the BMW that has a 2.8 litre engine in a 318 Ti chassis. So that car is continuing on up to fourth in the class now as Matthew Simonite has pitted to hand over to James Mansell. Johnny Hayes, though, out of the car, who will celebrate a birthday next week. Paul Sabiani into that car, number 66, the drivers from Shropshire, who finished second in the championship 2 years ago. So we're into the final 3/4 of an hour, so it's the same length as a road sports race to go, Kieran.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wonder here for Joel Oswick then, if he's setting personal bests right now, he is the quickest driver out on track. Is it worth for Joel here to say, look, for the team to say, you're quick, Joel, stay out in the car right now and see if you can build a gap to everybody else?
I think that was the plan at Croft. Joel Oswick did a lot of the driving. He's now set the aimshop.com fastest lap, which I don't think we've seen one since the first lap of the race when Alan Henderson set a quick one, a 2 minutes 3.426 for Joel Oswick. Fuel going into the Sandro Ballesteros and Bobby Trundley car. You can see some assistance from the Team Brit team that helped to run the Racing with Autism Audi TT. The two youngsters, Sandro Ballesteros, I think a teenager, Expedition GT driver Bobby Trundley will get in. Meanwhile, Simon Major, who's handed over to Justin Middleton, are a minute behind Scott Parkin, so that is the advantage Scott Parkin, by making the early pit stop and having the safety car, has had. Does this mean that Scott Parkin might be looking for win number 2 of the season?
Yeah, it certainly worked out that way so far, and Scott Parkin will be delighted with how that strategy has gone to play. Meanwhile, we're seeing into the pit lane then, the number 22, so Luke Browse has brought that car in. He's going to hand that over to Paul Browse to finish off this race. So the Leon Cupra into the pits there, as there was that little bit of debris that I spotted earlier on.
Yeah.
It is on the outside of the first corner of Riches then, so it's one of those corner bollards that you normally find on the inside of the corner. It's on the outside right now and a little bit on the track.
Yeah, it's not quite where it was because someone just kicked it up a moment ago. Here in the Ginetta G40, he's got a new alternator and Chris Webster and his co-driver Matthew Tidmarsh are looking to head back out into the race. They're many laps down, but they can still score points as long as you complete 50% of the race. It doesn't matter if you see the checkered flag or not. As long as you do 50% of the race, you will score points in this championship.
Yeah. So definitely see if they can get the car out there, as you say, to score those important points. As long as they've done more than an hour, they'll be absolutely fine. We're watching Scott Parkin then making his way through in towards Williams, and then he'll get himself down the Bentley straight. So Joel Oswick is into the pits now, so he'll be handing over the car then. So the number 4 handing over to James Collins. So James will be tasked with see if he can not only try and hold back Scott Parker, but to try and get out ahead of him. Joel Oswick putting in some strong laps, but if we've already seen the likes of 60 seconds a gap between Middleton now, it's going to be a big gap for Collins to try and close in on. You can just see in the background there is the number 8 Ginetta that they're trying to get underway and hopefully rejoin back into the race.
Yeah, it's not moving and it's in the pit lane rather than on the apron, so that's not good for the Ginettas. So perhaps not all is as well as they had hoped. So Darren Ball will go through to take the lead of the race because he hasn't pitted yet. Neither has Greg Saunders, so they will be the top 2 once everything shuffles out. And Scott Parkin then the leading pit stopper at this stage, and he's lapping pretty quickly too. He's done a 2:3.6 fairly recently.
But yeah, so in the pit lane they've actually pushed that Ginetta. A team of 4 or 5 of them have pushed the Ginetta, trying to get it out of the way, because obviously it was in the way of some pit stoppers and in the slow lane of the pit lane. So they've just pushed that car further down the pit lane now so that it can be a little bit more out of the way, but they're hoping they can start that car and rejoin the race with that new alternator. We'll keep an eye on it, of course, and see if they get any progress.
I think the pit stops in the classes have been completed. So Class B is being led by Ryan Bensley. Again, an early stop that worked out. His Honda Civic is 41 seconds ahead of Michael Downey, who is in second in his Porsche Boxster, and then Bobby Trundley will be third in their Audi TT. So that's the top 3 in Class B. Class C is being led by Alex Wilkinson Hughes, who is 39 seconds ahead of Ash Moore. So that's going to be a big chase through Ash Moore, the Mazda MX-5 versus the Honda Civic. And then Thomas Stedman is in third in their Mazda MX-5. The Class A order still to be worked out once the final couple of pit stops are dealt with.
Absolutely. Well, we're still waiting as well for Darren Ball and Greg Saunders to make their way into the pits then, as there's the number 196 Civic. That's James Mansell now behind the wheel. Ash Moore behind the wheel, second in class right now, and looking to see if he can close up to the back of the 97, which is Alex Wilkinson Hughes behind the wheel.
Yes, that's the Class C chase. Ash Moore and Sam Dennis have won each of the races in Class C this year, so I have the championship lead. The championship can come from any of the 3 classes. There in the pit lane then is the erstwhile race leader, Joel Oswick, who has jumped out of the car. There he is, he's just taken his helmet off, gone out of shot. And he will hand over then to James Collins, who owns the car. Last year we saw various different drivers share this car with James, who ideally doesn't want it to be in gear when he restarts it, but any disaster there was fairly averted, I think.
Steady, James, steady.
So I think the mechanic was well on the ball there to move himself out of the way before it got a lot worse. And out of the pit lane then comes Simon Mason. So where does he go in to work out? So Scott Parkin is our leading stopper, and Simon Mason comes out ahead of Justin Middleton, I think. And he's much closer to Scott Parkin too, 29 seconds. So obviously it was a slow stop for Simon Major and Justin Middleton. So the leading pit stop is Scott Parkin, second is Simon Mason, and then in third position will be the Browse family. So they made a good stop. So Luke Browse, it should be Paul Browse now, shouldn't it? Up in third in class. Fourth is James Collins, who's just taken over that car. And Justin Middleton then has dropped down to 5th, I think, out of the pit stoppers, but we've still got to factor Darren Ball and Greg Saunders into that order.
Yeah, Greg Saunders has just brought the car into the pits as well, so in that Seat Cupra currently sitting in the pit lane, so really we're just waiting for Darren Ball to make his way into the pit lane. He's the only one to serve a pit stop just yet, so we'll keep an eye on that pit lane entry. I'm sure we have 37 minutes left, so there's still 22 minutes left. Yeah, I did that quick maths well this time. 22 minutes left of the pit window before it closes, but you don't want to be caught out that if there's a safety car late on and you haven't made your pit stop, you don't want to be caught out because the pit lane will be closed and you won't have made your stop.
Yeah, don't make it too late. Is that a black flag going out to one car? Or is it a black and white? We've got black and white on the screen in front of us. It looked like a black flag that was being shown by our start line marshal.
Are you creating drama again, Josh?
Well, it's to 24 if it was. Yeah, stop-go penalty, number 24, I believe. Is there a 24?
I didn't think there was, but...
No, perhaps I didn't see 24. Perhaps I didn't see that quite as I should have done. But there's certainly going to be a stop-go penalty for one car out there. So we'll pick up on that when we've got more information. Maybe if Kieran's there on the in the pit lane, he might be able to find out more information if that doesn't appear on our screen. Kieran Mogg, that is, rather than Kieran McGinley alongside me.
Well, we're getting news from Kieran Mogg that they can't start that number 8 Ginetta, so they pushed it back out of the pit lane and back into the paddock. So a real shame. I was hoping that they, replacement part would do the trick, but doesn't seem to be the case.
Greg Saunders' pit stop continues. Scott Parkin still pushing on. He's now half a minute ahead of Simon Mason now that Simon's getting up to speed. So where is Greg Saunders going to feature in this order? Can the Browse family get their first podium in Club Enduro, because they are now the third of the stoppers, with what I think could be Paul driving the car now. And then you've got James Collins 7 seconds behind, so that is the chase for a potential podium. And now Greg Saunders in the AMS Motorcycles Cupra is about to get back into the race. The Capture Motorsport team sent him on his way, and he's, I think, going to slot in just behind Justin Middleton, who accelerates through. But there on our screens we can see Scott Parkin, who played the strategy. They've been in the Club Enduro Championship for a while now, and they perhaps just understand how that strategy works, the Dark Side Developments crew, and because they've got a big fuel tank in that Audi TT, they could make that early stop, and that may well work out for them.
Yeah, the fact that we didn't see any refuelling of that car, did we? So the fact that it was able to run on the same tank of fuel is pretty impressive. The fact that it would have affected the performance in the first half of the race, especially in the first half an hour or so, because if that's a full tank compared to others that might be running half a tank or maybe slightly less and looking to take on fuel in the stop, so they would have lost time out on track. And without refueling, of course, that can be taken into account of your 3-minute mandatory pit stop. So they were happy to run the whole race on the same fuel, almost to give themselves a little bit of ballast off the start.
Yeah, but I guess the small loss you make from the extra weight, you sort of gain from having a good open strategy call, which should help them out. The Williams Motor Company Cooper's in the pit lane now, and I guess sort out that for Darren Ball, who's brought that into the pit lane from the lead of the race then. Darren, who was on the podium last time out, I think, at Brands Hatch. So that will be refueled, so that needs a bit more fuel in to go the final half an hour or so. So this should give Scott Parkin the lead, not just in theory, but in reality as well on our timing screens. There definitely is a black flag that's being shown. It's to a single-digit car number. There's not many single-digit car numbers in this race.
There's only 4 of them. So one of them's in the pit. One of them's in the pit lane. That's number 8. Ryan Parkin and Dylan Breiter, they didn't start this race, so that narrows it down to 2.
So if we're trying to find that one out, it'll obviously be quite obvious if a car comes into the penalty area, which is at the end of the pit lane here. So we are waiting confirmation of who is going to get this stop-go penalty. Now, if it was a 10-second penalty, that may well be for passing before the safety car came in. 82's off, the car that had brake overheating issues, and it's got damage, hasn't it? It's hit the front right corner for Ben Williams. So this is a shame for Ben, who's had a decent start to the season. But it looks like that car is out the race, and it's clattered something along the way.
Yeah, really a big shame to see, but did the right thing though, did Ben Williams, and pull it over to a place of recovery. so that at least it can be pushed back behind the wall. As there is Paul Browse, who is just getting a little bit of lappery out of the way. James Mansell in the 169 is the one he's just passed. And not for position, of course, but just a little bit of a lap to be put on that Mazda. But looking at the order then, it will be interesting to see where Darren Ball rejoins. We had the likes of Greg Saunders rejoin in 7th place, so I reckon he's not going to be too far away from that battle for 7th place with Greg Saunders. He in turn is 9.6 seconds away from Justin Middleton in the number 18.
So Scott Parkin's gone through then and leading on our screens by 34 seconds from Simon Mason. Now this is going to be the battle for 3rd that we can see on our screen now. So that is Paul Browse being caught by James Collins? Well, he was on the last lap by 1.5 seconds. The gap was 6 seconds. With the new gap as they come up across the line now, Browse to Collins. Is it less than 6? It's still 6, so the same lap time from the pair of them on that lap. They weren't overly quick though, both in the 2 minutes 11s. So I wonder if perhaps the likes of Justin Middleton and Darren Ball, when he gets back going, whether they've got the pace to chase those two cars that are battling over 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ball is falling down the order, of course, because he's still in the pits then. And through goes Justin Middleton down in towards Riches. We'll see where Greg Saunders is as well. So rolling down the pit lane, here's Darren Ball now exiting the pits then. Where will he rejoin? He's going to rejoin in, that looks like 6th place to me. As 7th place. So he rejoins behind Greg Saunders. So he's got a bit of a mission on his hands now to try and catch the back and see if we can resume another Seat Cupra battle, although with slightly different cars.
Yeah, that's right. For Justin Middleton, he's 4 seconds a lap quicker than the two cars ahead on the last lap, so it is on if he can catch those two ahead. He's 20 seconds behind, but at 4 seconds a lap with 30 minutes to go, that is certainly a possibility. So we'll keep an eye on that. So there is Greg Saunders, who just come out of the pits a few laps ago in 6th, and there is Darren Ball after his pit stop. He is in 7th and ahead of Andy Shepherd, who is in 8th position. Oh, the Giannetta's on its way. So they've finally got the alternator issues fixed. It taken a bit more effort to get it going, but for Chris Webster and for Matthew Tidmarsh, they're back into the race. They're many, many laps down. They're in 23rd position and 16 laps down, but after about 40 minutes of working, they are back into the race and now on a mission to try and score points.
Yeah, it's just get this car to the checkered flag. That's all that's left now to see if they can do that. So it should be Matthew Tidmarsh we've got down here was the second driver, so it should be Matthew behind the wheel. And I've just had from Kieran Mogg down in the pit lane, it is number 4 with the black flag. So that's James Collins and Leon Oswick then in the BMW M3, so they are the team that are getting the black flag.
There's a load of penalties come up on my screen, and they are crucial penalties. The car in 3rd place, the Luke and Paul Browse car, is going to get a 3-lap penalty, so that's a very serious penalty. I think it's for a pit stop infringement. So that is a big drama for them. We've just heard about the car that would have taken 3rd place. That's going to get a drive-through penalty, maybe a stop-go for James Collins. Greg Saunders is also going to get a 3-lap penalty for presumably the same thing. And then there's a track limit penalty of 5 seconds, so rather less crucial for Rob Fennick and Andy Shepherd. That's rather a smaller penalty. But for the car that's in 3rd place on your screen, when the race finishes, it will be deducted 3 laps. So that is going to take them obviously way out of contention. And this first podium for the car that you can see on your screens now has absolutely gone away from them.
Yeah, we've had Kieran Mogg down in the pit lane investigating the car for black flag. It's for speeding in the pit lane. So that is probably going to be a stop and go.
Yeah, probably however many miles per hour it was over, it will be stopped for that, something like that.
It does appear now on the digital flag above the gantry now, so maybe it's not being, whoever's, James Collins behind the wheel can't see it, or is perhaps not looking at the right-hand side down the start-finish straight. Now we'll have to look up, which hopefully is a bit more prominent. Hopefully he'll see that this time around.
These cars do have pit-to-car radios, so they should. The team should be able to inform the driver of the penalty as well. Here's Alex Wilkinson-Hughes. Now, he led by 37 seconds earlier, but he hasn't got the pace of Dave Connell had in that car, and the gap is down to 13 seconds to Ash Moore, who's just set another new lap record in the Class C order, 2 minutes 13.5, and Alex Wilkinson-Hughes has just been unlapped by the Paul Sabiani car. So the Class E battle is not over yet. So the 36-year-old from Staffordshire, Alex Wilkinson-Hughes, in the car that Dave Connell started and has developed over the last few seasons. Is he going to be caught before the end? On the last lap, it was 5 seconds that Ashmore was quicker than him. And with 13 seconds the gap at the start of the lap, as you can see, the stop-go penalty is now happening for James Collins. The Class C lead may well change, I think, before the end.
I think so, yep. So lots of penalties to be dished out, lots of penalties to be served. And just looking down there, the number 4 in the pit lane, so James Collins is having to sit there and wait. And Joel, it'll either be either one of them, wouldn't it? It could have been Joel, it could have been James, because both would have been in the car at the pit lane. It's dependent on whether it was speeding into the pits or speeding out of the pits.
Alex Wilkinson-Hughes has got to hurry up since I said he wasn't driving as quick as Dave Connell has just re-lapped Paul Sabiani. So perhaps having another car around him that is going a bit quicker is just urging him on. So what kind of pace can Alex Wilkinson-Hughes get out of this Mazda MX-5? Across the line he goes. It's 2 minutes 19.7. It's not quick enough, I'm afraid, because Ash Moore across the line now does a 2 minutes 14.9. It's another 5 seconds that Ashmore has caught. So in about a lap and a half's time, we might well have a change for the Class C lead.
Will do indeed, I'm sure. And the gap now 8.9 seconds, as you said. So Ashmore really closing up to the back of Alex Wilkinson-Hughes, the Civic Type R of Ashmore, closing up to the Mazda MX-5. So looking at the lap times alone, it's looking very much like he will be caught. And I'm hearing now there's even more drama here, because car number 4, according to Kieran Mogg down in the pit lane, has been disqualified for ignoring the black flags. So now the number 4, who had the fastest lap of the race, and we'll see now, will he get going again?
They've been waved off the road by the officials. I see the chief clerk of the course was down there. You've got 3 laps, as you were explaining, to come in, and it just was not coming into the pit. So what a silly thing to do by not coming in early enough, because it would probably have been a small penalty. They would have still got a result out of it, but now they've been excluded, and that's such a big championship factor as well, because you have to count an exclusion in your total point score as well. So that is a huge drama then for the number 4 car, the James Collins and Joel Oswick car. For a small error really, speeding in the pit lane, it's turned into a much bigger problem.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is absolutely not the way you want to go out, especially with a car that was capable of such quick laps as well. At the hands of Joel Oswick, setting that 2 minute 3.426. It's still our fastest lap of the race. It's still our AbeShop.com fastest lap of the race, even deep way through into this race. We have less than 24 minutes on the clock. They say time flies when you're having fun, Josh. That's certainly been the case.
Yeah, I think this is the first time you've seen Club Enduro, Kieran. I hope you've enjoying it.
I've been absolutely loving it. It's great strategic battles, and I mean, Scott Parkin pitting early. Yes, he had to clear the grass out of the front splitter, of course. That might have been causing some cooling issues. Nevertheless, even with his 30-second success penalty, the safety car played perfectly into his hands. He leads by 35.5 seconds ahead of Simon Mason in the Cupra TCR. And then we have Luke Browse rounding off the top 3. Although, sorry, not Luke Browse, it's Simon...
Paul, I think.
Paul Browse, that's the one. That's the name I was trying to get. But they've got a 3-lap penalty against the 22, so they will fall out of the top 3. So it will actually go, it's going to be Justin Middleton, who's currently sitting in that 3rd place spot.
Yeah, that's certainly what we believe to be the case. I think I saw a member of the team perhaps trying to argue the penalty, but that's certainly what came up on one of our screens here in the commentary box. So it looks to be the case. I'm afraid for them, and also for Greg Saunders, who was on for such a good result in his debut in the championship. So that should promote Darren Ball and should promote Alan James too. Matthew Stockford and Alan James haven't had the outright pace this year, in their Audi RS3, but have been consistent all the way through. They lead the Class A Championship coming into this race. Scott Parkin will overhaul them if it stays as it is, but it is going to be more points on the board for the car that's run by Team Dynamics, the former British Touring Car Championship winning team. They can see the Ginetta G40 that's still running after its problems and is in 6th position in Class B, so they are looking to finish 50% of the race, which they are on course to do so far, and that will mean they will be classified as a finisher and will be able to score those crucial championship points. Of course, with the Class B championship leader not having started, Jonathan Packer, the car that's second in Class B in the championship not here, Steve Cheetham and Wayne Schofield. So those points for Matthew Tidmarsh and Chris Webster will be very important for the long run of the championship.
Absolutely, as we see some Scott Parkin, I think that is, trying to find his way past a little bit of Lapri. In fact, this is the 25, so this is Darren Ball. And it just shows you Darren Ball, who was leading this race, of course, before the pit stops all sorted themselves out, now has Scott Parkin right behind him and looking to put another lap. This will be a second lap, will it be, over that car. So yeah, it's going very well for Scott Parkin right now.
At Ritchie's, the two Class C leaders almost together now, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to pick up on that. Just going down towards the hairpin. Alex Wilkinson-Hughes has almost been caught by Ashmore now. The gap is 1.6 seconds. Wilkinson-Hughes has picked his pace up. He did a 2:16 on the previous lap, and Ashmore was only a second quicker than that. So the Class C battle is perhaps not going to be settled as quickly as we thought it might be. Meanwhile, on our Alpha Live pictures, we continue to see that Scott Parkin is struggling to put a lap on Darren Ball. But the two Class C leaders now heading down towards the Agostini hairpin, turn 4. So that continues in the favour of the Mazda. Here we go then, we're picking it up now on our pictures. 97 still ahead of 195. The championship leaders, remember, Sam Dennis and now Ashmore at the wheel, chasing after Alex Wilkinson-Hughes. So can Wilkinson-Hughes hold on for the final 20 minutes, I wonder, Kieran?
It's going to be a big task defending against Ashmore in that Honda Civic Type R, considering the fact that Ashmore was 1.3 seconds quicker on that last lap. But it's one case to catch a driver, it's another to pass them, but we shall hold on with bated breath and see what happens here, as these two, the Mazda MX-5, the 97, and the Honda Civic Type R 195, have been pretty much sharing the same bit of track for, what, about 80% of this race so far. So the fact that they're still inseparable after a good chunk of running here is great to watch. About over 100 minutes of running, and they're still yet to be decided. They're both on the same lap, they are both going to be giving it their all here, and at the moment then it's Alex Wilkinson-Hughes who is ahead of Ashmore, is ahead through the bomb hole.
So through they come towards the end of what is lap number 41 for these cars. Wilkinson-Hughes hasn't been caught hugely on this lap. Remember that point where the Honda was 5 seconds a lap quicker. It's certainly not that anymore. Wilkinson-Hughes has slided the car around. He's getting a warning now for track limits. So that is a little bit of a concern. So Wilkinson-Hughes, who's pushing on a little bit more now, is very much under pressure. And here comes Ashmore, the former Type R Trophy racer, is on the outside line into Ritchie's, and he swoops around the outside to take the lead of Class C, looking for the third victory of the season for the Motion Motorsport pairing. And Ashmore then, after a fight where I think he had to catch about 40 seconds to overhaul that pit stop success penalty for winning last time out at Brands Hatch. They also won at Croft 2, and now Ashmore, for the first time in his stint, leads the way from Alex Wilkinson-Hughes after making that move at Ritchie's on lap 42 of the race.
Brilliant stuff from Ashmore then to hang it around the outside there of Ritchie's, got the move done, takes over the Class C lead, and now his only focus now will be to try and run away as he makes his way now down in towards Agostini, get back onto the power then, as Alex Wilkinson-Hughes, second place right now. I'm just trying to see, they've got a healthy lead over Thomas Stedman in the Mazda MX-5 behind, so it might just be a case now of second place is a pretty good result, but yeah, for Ashmore to go right round the outside to take over the lead of Class C, brilliant stuff.
Yeah, this season Dave Connell and Alex Wilkinson-Hughes have had a second in Class C, so it looks like they're probably on course for another one. They sit fourth in the overall standings coming here to Snetterton. Ashmore and Sam Dennis, the overall championship leaders, as well as Class C. They just made that move then at the start of the lap. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Scott Parkin still leads in number 1. He's 32 seconds ahead of 23 Simon Mason, the Audi ahead of the Cupra. Luke Browse on the road is still in 3rd place, but we believe he's getting that post-race penalty. 4th is Justin Middleton. Greg Saunders is there in 5th, but he's being caught by Darren Ball. But again, Greg Saunders is getting a post-race penalty. Alan James is in 7th. Andy Schulz is 8th. 9th is Andy Shepherd. And then the top 10 completed by the Class B leader, Ryan Bensley. And Ryan Bensley's got a healthy lead over Bobby Trundley, who's got himself up ahead of Michael Downey now. So the Audi's ahead of the Porsche. And then in Class C, we've just had that change for the lead. Ashmore ahead of Alex Wilkinson-Hughes and now getting away. And then, as Kieran just said, it's Thomas Stedman who is 3rd within that class. The Clubman Cup, that's being headed by the William Puttergill and Ryan Bensley car. 2nd is Sandro Ballesteros and Bobby Trundley, with Michael Downey in 3rd place. Now, what I believe might be happening here is, so I reckon it's James Collins was the one who sped in the pit lane, or ignored the black flag, sorry. So he has been disqualified, but it's only his laps that, I've just had confirmation of this. So it's only his laps that have been excluded. So therefore Joel Oswick is allowed to go back out. However, his car is he's not going very well, is it? It's got to the end of the pit lane. So the car will not be excluded. So the car will not count as a disqualification. It's just James Collins that's been excluded. But for Joel Oswick, I'm not sure if actually this car's going to make the end of the race after all.
No, I don't think it is. It stopped right at the end of the pit lane exit, so it's not quite in the firing line as you turn in there. But has he got the car started again? It's starting to move again as he makes his way through in towards Riches there, so perhaps a Control-Alt-Delete of the car, and he's able to get it back up and running. I was just about to point out another dimension to that C-Class battle, because looking at the timing screens then, Ashmore has now got a 5-second penalty underneath that car right now, so that adds a little bit more of a dimension, and also the fact that the team and Ashmore has to keep it within track limits, because if he extends it again, that's a 10-second penalty above the 5-second penalty he's got, and the penalties get worse from there. He really has to focus on hitting his marks and making sure that he keeps it on the island.
What they really don't want is a safety car, because and James Collins has it's Joel Oswick, of course, again is stopped again on the circuit. There was a little bit of smoke that was coming out of the bonnet, and again the car gets back going. It's not a modern race car where like everything resets and then you seem to be able to go away again. But it seems to reset itself to a degree where it can get going, and maybe for the first time Joel Oswick is going at some type of speed. It's not enough now, it's slowing again, isn't it? So this is somewhat bizarre, because the car was running absolutely fine up until they got the black flag. And Joel Oswick, on very much the wrong side of the circuit now, is grounding to a halt again. That's what, the 3rd time it's come to a stop. So this is a bit of a concern really for the likes of Ashmore, who has now pulled out over 5 seconds to Alex Wilkinson-Hughes. But if there's a late race safety car, that gap will come right down.
Absolutely, and well, again, it's preventing a safety car right now, because he's able to just about keep that car stopping and starting, and this must be so frustrating for Joel Oswick, because he'll get the car started again, and then the issue will rear its ugly head again, and it has to come to a stop and start and stop. If he can make it back to the pit lane, at least then he can get a way to get back to the pit lane and maybe have a look at the issue and see what goes on at that point. But it's just about getting it back to the pit lane now to see if they can sort the issue out. The car is running in 19th overall, so it's running 10th in class at the moment, but of course those lap times for James Collins have been deleted, so it's as if those laps never happened, and so they find themselves 7 or 8 laps down on where they were originally, or roughly thereabouts.
Yeah, that's right, Kieran. So we'll see what comes of it. They will score points then if they make 50%, although they're in 10th actually. There's only a 1 point difference between finishing 10th and 11th. remember how this works. Yeah, so you'll score 1 point if you don't get classified, then you'll score 2 if you finish 11th or lower, then you'll score 3 if you get 10th. So yeah, so there's 2 extra points at stake here, whether they finish within 50% of the end classification. I think that might happen regardless, actually, if they get to the checkered flag or not. Scott Parkin we haven't seen lately. He still leads by 32 seconds. It's been that really ever since the pit stop for Simon Mason. So again, it's super competitive. You can't really gain much on pure pace, only if the others have problems or if you've got good strategy calls. And I think that was that James Collins who just passed us at full speed? I think it might have been, because he's just done a 4-minute lap, and that would make kind of sense, wouldn't it?
It would. It would if it was Joel Oswick who was getting his way through. Yeah, a 4-minute lap time does seem to... Yeah, there he is on our... cameraman have picked up the pictures then, and that car seems to be looking to get back up to speed then, heading our way through now. So going through the motions, in, through and out of Palmer. And we'll have a look at those lap times. But yeah, that car seems like it's running back to good health again, at least for the time being, down in towards Agostini. Of course, we will keep a very close eye on it, but it's now 7 laps down on Scott Parkin. Probably would have been about 5 laps down, but of course the lap times previous have been deleted as if they never happened, so the car's still running in the race then, so at least that saves them the exclusion, and the fact that they could make it to the checkered flag means that they could still drop this round if it becomes one of their worst rounds.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you do drop. I think it's just the 1 round this year in the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship. Previously, you've dropped 2 because we've had an away day. So therefore, if you didn't want to go abroad and then have to miss or have a bad day in the UK, you could have 2 dropped. But that's not the case this year. Just the 1, I believe. With rounds to come in the championship at Silverstone, Alton Park, and Donington Park 2. In the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship, and we have 10 minutes of the race to go. Scott Parkin then continues to lead with Simon Mason in second. On the road it's Paul Browse in third, but with a penalty that will promote Justin Middleton up into that position, and Paul Browse is having a bit of fun and games at the moment with Joel Oswick, who's managed to unlap himself. In Class B, Ryan Bensley continues to lead, with Bobby Trundley there in second and Michael Downey in third. Ash Moore leads Class C by 5 seconds or so. Let's read the right line. Ash Moore leads the lead by 7 seconds over Ash Wilkinson Hughes. And then in third position in Class C, Thomas Stedman. So that all looks fairly settled as long as Ashmore doesn't pick up any more track limit penalties. So let's just check that page of the timing screen. Yet still 5 seconds for Ashmore. He's only 7.2 ahead of Alex Wilkinson Hughes, who was quicker on the last lap by 1.5 seconds. So potentially that Class C battle with 5 laps or so is not over yet.
Not at all, and it's still, a late safety car would completely wipe out that gap, wouldn't it? So it's not done and dusted for Ashmore. All he's got to do is keep driving the wheels off that machine, and Alex Wilkinson Hughes knows that if a safety car does come along and rear its head, that'll be a very good advantage. Big lock-up from, I think that was the BMW going through in towards Murray's there. But I think that might have been, was that Senna Osman then, I wonder? The yellow and black BMW. It was a big lock-up there, so Senna Osman pushing hard as he makes his way through now down in towards Riches, but got away unscathed, just a little lock-up. I say a little lock-up, it was quite a moderate lock-up.
Just picking up our Class C leader there, and you just got an idea of the gap. You can see the Mazda in the background with the Honda in the foreground. Ashmore 7.2 seconds ahead. His last lap, a 2 minutes 16.9. Alex Wilkinson Hughes now on the same time of pace that Dave Connell did in the first half, a 2 minutes 15.4 last time round. And actually, he's just been lapping, hasn't he? The third place car, Thomas Stedman. So I wonder if that's what's just held the pace back for Ashmore, having to lap a similar car. And just up the road there, the 5th place car in Class C, which is James Mansell in the OnlyFans backed Mazda MX-5. But let's have a look at the gap then between the two Class C leaders, because it's all about the gap now with the 5-second penalty. So Ashmore does a 2 minutes 15.0. That's a better lap. And Wilkinson Hughes' lap is slower, 2 minutes 16.1. So the gap out to 8 seconds. So it's still looking okay for Ashmore. But as you made the point earlier, Kieran, he's got to push on to keep this gap while not exceeding track limits, because that'll ruin it completely.
Yeah, 8.2 seconds is the gap now between the two cars, so Ashmore is doing his part, but again, he has to keep it on the island. He can't afford to get any more track limit penalties. The next one he does exceed will be a 10-second penalty on top of the 5 seconds he's already got, so he has to be very, very careful here, but also has to be mindful that he has to push on. So yeah, he's had too many warnings, so the penalties just start to come if he exceeds track limits.
So there he is. He's about to be lapped by the overall leader, Scott Parkin, who has just lapped Justin Middleton. Now, I didn't quite pick up on what was happening there, but Scott Parkin had his hand out of the window. Hopefully he was saying thank you and not something else, is all I'll say. I didn't really catch exactly what was happening there, but Scott Parkin, who's just put a lap on Justin Middleton, the 4th place car, he was only saying something anyway to him after he put a lap on Justin Middleton. So Scott Parkin carries on. He's now puts a lap on the Class C leader. And perhaps he's just got his hand out actually all the time. We'll try and pick up on this then. So Scott Parkin again had his hand out of the cockpit coming out of the corner. I wonder then if he is getting rather overheated and is trying to get some fresh air into the cockpit of that Audi TT, the race leading car. Let's watch that when he gets onto a long straight again. Whether he is just saying thank you to everybody he laps and is a very polite racing driver, or if he is getting perhaps quite hot in the cockpit of that car.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, next time he'll probably do it, as you say, down the centre straight, start from the straight, through in towards Murray's, back on the power he goes, and do we see a hand out of the cockpit, maybe to, as you say, redirect the flow of air into the cockpit? I don't think so this time around, so perhaps he was just being very polite.
Yeah, we'll see when he laps the next car, and if that all goes nicely, if again he gives him a little wave. The bonnet is not fastened as much as perhaps it was earlier. It was flapping around a little bit, maybe just at high speed at the end of the straight. So that's another question mark to look over this race leading car. Has something happened there to the front left bonnet clipper on the Audi TT? Scott Parkin will be hoping not. Perhaps he'll be hoping we're not going to watch him so closely over these last 5 minutes if there are a few issues arising.
I wonder if it's the fact that Scott Parkin doesn't even know about it, because where that's positioned, perhaps it's just out of view there, as he makes his way now down in towards Agostini, but still leading by half a minute then, as he makes his way back onto the power. A bit of lappery has managed to neutralise the gap between himself and the number 23 machine of Simon Mason. Sort of ebbing and flowing. It ebbed towards Parkin on the last couple of occasions. It's flowed towards Mason on this one. 4/10 taken out of that gap in the lead, 30 seconds, but of course that's all to do with a bit of lappery and taking slightly different lines than you would be normally used to. But we are heading in towards the closing stages of this race then. Scott Parkin leading the way by half a minute as he makes his way down in towards Brundle and Nelson.
In Class C, Alex Wilkinson Hughes was a second quicker again than Ashmore. So the gap is 7 seconds, take 5 away, 2.3 seconds is the gap between the two Class C leaders in reality. So that is still on over the last couple of laps or so. It'll be 2 laps to go then for Scott Parkin at the end of this. We haven't seen his hand out of the cockpit again, so I'm not really sure what was going on there a lap ago. I don't think I was imagining it. I've been watching a TV screen for a while now, so perhaps I might have been. But I don't think I was. So there is the Dark Side Developments car then. Scott Parkin leading. Here's the Class C leader, so we're keeping an eye on this lead gap. It's not going to be a battle on the circuit for the win because of this penalty that is overlooking the class leading car of Ashmore that is in 13th overall. It's also 3rd in the Clubman Cup behind Ryan Bensley and Bobby Trundley. Two very experienced drivers leading Class B and the Clubman Cup. But here is the Class C leader Ashmore, 2 minutes 15.2. That was a better lap again for the Honda driver, and the gap is back out to 8 seconds again to Alex Wilkinson Hughes, who's back in the 2:16s. So it sort of fluctuates in one direction and then in the other again, with let's say 2 further laps of the race to go.
Yeah, and the thing is as well that Ashmore can't afford to lose a little bit of time to Lappery. It's right on a knife edge here. That gap he needs to keep between himself and Alex Wilkinson-Hughes, says that is a spinner. That's the number 78 machine. So that is Alan James, who had, was that a spin or was that just exit stage right out of the circuit? Because he's managed to get it between the Armco barriers, so it's just about out of the way. Will it be deemed out of the way enough? It's just on the entry in towards Williams there.
Yes, so they were in 7th. They're going to lose a couple of places because that is into retirement. As I say, they will be classified. They will score points, but won't score as many as they thought they would do. One of the Class A Championship contending cars, Alan James with Matthew Stockford, who started it. But for Scott Parkin, he's got one further lap to go at the end of this. The reigning Tegiwa Club Enduro champion in this 2017 Audi TT TDI with its 2-litre diesel engine, producing 340 brake horsepower, developed by his family-run organisation Darkside Developments. They turn left then through Murray's. They will have one further lap to go. So accelerate to the line now, or Scott Parkin accelerates to the line. And one of the very few solo-driven cars is the car that is leading. Then Scott's done all the driving himself.
Well, you're right, that bonnet's getting worse, isn't it? He's only got one more lap to hang on.
Yeah, the front left bonnet pin seemingly giving way. But hopefully the other one is pretty strong, and he can continue on, as you say. Leading by about half a minute over Simon Mason. Shame that we sort of didn't have that wheel-to-wheel action right to the end due to the safety car period, but it's been very evenly matched, Scott Parkin and Simon Mason. They've got that E30 to lap, that's still going. Great stuff for the Osman family, who are a 4th within Class B, so they've had a really nice run in that 1980s car, the oldest car on the grid. So you don't need just sort of 21st century cars to compete in the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship. Older cars very much welcome too. But here is Scott Parkin. Yellow flags with the Alan James car off the road. The Welshman has pulled that car into retirement. Class B, well, that's led by over a minute by Ryan Bensley. Class C, 8 seconds still the gap, 3 seconds after the penalty is applied. So the last lap, he can't afford to back off in that one, but Scott Parkin doesn't need to drive flat out for the last third of the lap. He's drove really well. He led the first part of the race after the Mazda MX-5 of Alan Henderson retired, the early leader. They made that good team call to bring the car in, get the success penalty out of the way, only drop one full lap down, not 2, which was so important when the safety car came out. And then they were able to cycle through to the front during that pit stop window through the second part after the safety car, and then Scott Parkin has drove consistently ever since then, and quickly as well. And Scott Parkin wins back-to-back rounds of the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship, and he wins here at Snetterton by about half a minute in that Darkside Developments car. Then we will wait for the class battles to be decided too. The 3-lap penalties have, I think, have been applied on our screen now as well. So Justin Middleton has moved up to 3rd. He's taken Class A in 3rd place, and Darren Ball 4th. They've both taken the flag a lap down. Here is Ashmore. Is he 5 seconds ahead of Alex Wilkinson-Hughes? Is that penalty still 5 seconds? I think it is. So in reality, the gap was 3 as they started the lap. We wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. I think it's more than 5, isn't it? So Ashmore and Sam Dennis win Class C, but only by 2.7 seconds. Alex Wilkinson-Hughes was pushing on. He set his personal best lap on the very last lap, but it wasn't quite enough. But great to have a super competitive Class C battle here at Snetterton. Meanwhile, we wait for the Class B winner, who hasn't come through yet. So Ryan Bensley with William Puttergill will take back-to-back victories in the Motion Motorsport Motorsport Honda that blew up in such dramatic fashion in the opening round of the season at Croft Circuit. But Ryan Bensley joined the team at Brands Hatch. Ever since then, it's been race wins all the way, and Ryan Bensley takes the flag, winning Class B then with William Puttergill. But Class A, that went the way of Scott Parkin. Second to Chris Byallen and Simon Mason, 31 seconds back, with Simon Major and Justin Middleton third. Class B then, as we said, Ryan Bentley and William Puttergill the winners. Bobby Trundley and Sandro Ballesteros were second, with Michael Downey in third. Class C went the way of Sam Dennis and Ashmore, with Dave Connell and Alex Wilkinson-Hughes in second, and Thomas Stedman and Mike Hooper took third by only 2.8 seconds. They were being caught all the time by Johnny Hayes and Paul Sabiani. They just needed one more lap, but that wasn't coming their way. So that completes round 3 of the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship. Cars are being taken back to Parc Ferme. So let's have a look at the results. Number 1, the winner, Scott Parkin, after 54 laps by 31 seconds from Chris Byallen and Simon Mason. The Browns duo, they will be penalised. So Darren Ball, Simon Major and Justin Middleton will be third, and Darren Ball fourth. Matthew Hampson and Andy Schulz are fifth, with Greg Saunders in sixth. That's corrected on your screen now. Seventh, the Class B winners and the Clubman Cup winners too, William Puttergill and Ryan Bensley. Eighth for Sandro Ballesteros and Bobby Trundley, with Michael Downey in ninth. Retiring but will be classified in 10th, Matthew Stockford and Alan James, with Paul and Luke Browns. They were classified in 11th. In 12th was Greg Saunders, also with a penalty. Then 13th, the Class C winners, Sam Dennis and Ashmore. And then in 14th, Dave Connell and Alex Wilkinson-Hughes after that race-long battle. 15th was Thomas Stedman and Mike Hooper. 16th for Johnny Hayes and Paul Sabiani. 17th, James Simonite and Matthew Simonite rather, and James Mansell. 18th for the Osman family BMW, Senna and Semmel. In 19th position was Ed Christie and Andy Gay. 20th was Joel Oswick, although I think in fact a few more laps yet to be deducted from that cars race. And they were the last of the finishers. So 19 cars, I think, brought their cars home. But a great, enjoyable race there, Kieran.
That really was. It had a little bit of everything, a bit of drama, a bit of strategy as well. Yeah, really, really enjoyable watch on that one. As, obviously the Class B battle was decided by, I think, about a lap there. Scott Parkin decided by 31 seconds. But, yeah, a race against the clock, though, for Class C, because, of course, that Ashmore penalty really brought that back into Alex Wilkinson-Hughes' court then. So we thought that Ashmore had got the move done. It was done for the lead of Class C. Then the 5-second penalty came, and that sort of turned the race a little bit on its head, but Ashmore did well to keep it on the island between the white lines and win the race by what was then 2.7 seconds once the 5-second penalty, the 195, was applied. So yeah, it was a race that had a little bit of everything. Yeah, that was good stuff, very enjoyable from the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship, which has sort of its summer break now. It will return in August at Silverstone. In September will be Oulton Park, and Donington Park will round off the season this year in October. There's a number of cars that have got to be picked up by our recovery teams around the circuit after their various different dramas during the course of that race. As I say, we lost about 10 cars, although a lot of them are in the pit lane. There are a few around the circuit that have got to be brought back to the paddock. Here at Snetterton, we have got 3 more races coming your way, with the Toyota MR2 Championship, the 5 Club Racing MX5 Cup, and the Race Parts Historic 750 Formula Series 2. So all the cars have gone to Parc Ferme, so now Kieran Mogg has got to somehow work his way to round up the drivers, which looks like we're nearly there now, because Scott Parkin, rather than going in the back way, came in via the pit lane, so it took a little bit longer, but I can see Scott there is now with Kieran, so I don't think it'll be too much longer before we'll be able to catch up with Scott Parkin and find out from his point of view how he was able to win that race and win back-to-back rounds of the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship after winning on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit 5 weeks ago. And then here again, here at Snetterton. So let's catch up with him, with Kieran in the pits.
Well, we're down here in Parc Ferme. What an amazing race, and what a Herculean effort. Congratulations, the entire stint by yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, and we always plan to have an early stint, so an early stop, so a short stint at the start and a longer stint at the end. But the green BMW that I think ended up getting disqualified pushed me onto the grass, covered the radiator and intercooler in grass, so we're having high inlet air temperatures, high coolant temperatures. So I managed to nurse it until the pit window came in. The guys got all that out of the way, and then the car were more or less faultless through then. So yeah, thanks to the guys for sorting it out. We had a bit of a bad day yesterday. Had the pace to win, and then circumstances, some of it my fault, some of it circumstantial, but that happens. And obviously the other TT, the engine's failed again, so we'll figure out what's going on with that. But I'm just glad that this one's held together and giving the boys something to drive home happy about, rather than in a depressing mood for 4 hours.
Absolutely, and I mean, it was a bit of a show of dominance almost, like the pace that you had compared to everybody else. It was must be real good to take into the next round, knowing that you've got that pace there.
Yeah, I kind of expected a few of the guys to be nibbling a little bit closer. I do think towards the end, as pace equalised, especially when the fast guys were in the other cars. So, yeah, I'm sure we're going to have some battles throughout the year. But again, circumstances in this race have sorted it out.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the win, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, unfortunately, because there's been a bit of delay trying to get these cars here, we haven't got time to interview the other class winners because the next group are on the grid. So we're going to head back up to commentary with Josh and Kieran.